Welcome to On the Spot Motorsports Media. I'm your host, Mitchell Gunter, right along with Robert Simpson. And tonight, we're going to be diving back into Stock Eliminator, and we're going to be talking to Jim Schaechter that will be joining us. And I probably butchered his name, so I'm sorry, Jim, if I did. But he says you can call him anything, but just don't call him late to dinner. I'm the same way. I get called Michelle, Michael, whatever. So yeah, just don't call me late to the dinner table, and we'll be all right. But before we get into that, we're also going to talk about TBM Brakes, a great company. They make some excellent products, so we're going to dive in a little bit of that tonight as well. But before we do that, we're going to take a little commercial break, and we'll be right back after these messages.
Reliability to drive thousands of miles. Confidence for those who fly high. Redline oil products give you the power to crush the competition. And a track record of being the best. Redline oil products. You push it to the limit. We'll protect it.
Ready to take your engine to the next level? Scorpion Racing Products delivers precision-engineered, high-performance rocker arms that dominate the track. 100% CNC machined in the USA with aerospace-grade aluminum for unmatched strength and durability. Our rocker arms handle extreme conditions with multiple ratios available to fit your needs. Backed by our exclusive lifetime warranty. When performance matters, choose Scorpion Racing Products. Proven, reliable, unstoppable.
With more than 30 years of engine and drivetrain experience, Big Stuff is your one-stop total power management solution. Whether you're controlling a 600 horsepower street car and want the best drivability, or have a 6,000 horsepower race car, need the most foolproof, reliable control hardware, Big Stuff can do it all. All of our components are designed and manufactured right here in the USA, including our computers, wiring harnesses, touchscreen displays, and more. Nothing is built offshore, and we take pride in being one of the only automotive aftermarket manufacturers that can say this. Learn more at bigstuff3efi.com or connect with us on Facebook and Instagram for more information.
And of course, we also want to thank Larice Motorsports Insurance for always coming on board with On the Spot Motorsports Media. Wonderful company. If you want to protect your contents in your trailer, your race car, trailer itself, I mean, look no further than Larice Motorsports Insurance. They're racers as well, just looking out for fellow racers. Jim, I want to thank you for coming on tonight, and I'm sorry if I butchered your name up. So tell everybody who you are, so that way we don't screw anything else up.
Well, you'll have to know that, I make a list of all the different ways my name can be mispronounced. And the one you used has actually been used before. So it's nothing new on this planet. So that's okay. As I mentioned, it's kind of a screwy name. We've got relatives that pronounce it differently, spell it differently. So you're not alone. And I've done a lot of announcing for NHRA over the years. And we all struggle with that. You try to give it your best guess. You really, everyone would like to say you can find out in advance, but it's not always possible. And I don't get hung up on it. I think it's kind of fun anyway. I've heard a lot better versions of my name than what we actually use. So
you're like, I'll go with that one.
Well, it's a German last name.
Yeah.
And mine's a German last name, but mine's a whole lot easier to say.
Right. Well, go back 100 years and see if it was really the same. That's the whole thing.
Right.
When my family came over from Germany in the 1800s, at least on the Schaechter side, some of that, you got help spelling at Ellis Island. It's like, move on next, write it down.
Yeah.
So there's a lot of variables out there. It's just part of our history. It's all good,
Yeah.
Well, again, thank you for joining us tonight. We always like to, dive into Stock Eliminator because everyone has a particular story about their vehicle that they race, and also you have a great racing career. I mean, you've actually won Indy.
Yeah, yeah, and that's something that not many people can say, and much less many people that we've interviewed is that you won Indy in Stock Eliminator with a stick car, and I think you started the streak there at Indy. I think after you, there was like 4 or 5 straight years of stick cars winning Stock Eliminator at Indy.
Well, I would say this, as far as like, at least in my generation of racing, there's me who won Stock Eliminator with a stick car once, and then Kevin Helms, I think, did all the other ones. I mean,
Yeah, he did. Yeah, he did 3 in a row.
So
But,
Kevin, is just kind of like the Chuck Norris of Stock Eliminator stick shift guys, and super stock and whatever else he decides to get in. And so I'm a friend and a fan of his, and yeah, just we were talking just the other day, Kevin and I, and we kind of mentioned he won 3 Stock Eliminator championships in a row with a stick shift car. And that car is about ready to go through get a real spa moment and get bumper to bumper restoration. So
really,
the old 69 is going to hit the track again at some point. It's going to be end to end, all new everything.
So he's not going to leave it with the flame job on it, right? He's
going now. Last I heard him mention, he talked about bringing it back to the old fashioned, factory green with the hockey stripe, but don't quote me on that. That's his call. It's not, you'll have to have him on the show and talk to him about it, I think.
I would like to. Because the last time I saw him with a stick car, he was driving Ingles Corvette up at Indy.
Well, the last car he drove with a stick in it? Fun fact, my Cavalier.
Really?
Yeah, he blew an oil line on his Achieva in modified and did a nice spin out at Valdosta a couple years ago, and he didn't hit anything, got her stopped. It was a mess, and he got it fixed, but he thought, what if I scuffed a bearing or something? So he was going to park it, and I hadn't planned on driving the Cavalier in the second. It was a double, and so he jumped over and got in and let her rip. So I kind of got him thinking clutch pedal again, and so maybe it was dormant for a while, but I brought that thought back to life. So yeah, he and I were just talking yesterday about that. So
okay, so he blames you for setting.
I don't think it's blame. I think it's just more of a reawakening.
Right. Because I mean, when he had Doug's car at Indy, I mean it ran 9s up there in that heat. And that Corvette, and when I saw the number on the window, I said that number looks familiar. You know what I mean? Then I went around it and I saw the name on the window. I'm like, is this my goodness?
They punished the index on that. I mean, he was like 109, 110 under, and pretty much set the trigger, which made Brett unhappy because he had the same combo. And back then we were playing the average game, right? So once you trigger twice, you're on the clock as far as horsepower. And Brett Sauerbaugh went out and was able to help bring the average back down. But, I don't think anybody they knew it was a great car. Greg Williams bought it, right? From Engels. But they really hadn't run it before Bowling Green. So Kevin gets in, and promptly the transmission broke at Bowling Green, and they were looking for parts. And we threatened to steal Casey Miles' transmission out of his Z28. But he put a full 24/7 guard on it, so we couldn't do that. And they got everything together and ran it at Indy, and I mean it's just one of those the stories that happen, right? People do what they've got to do to get to the race, right? And that was another great story. You're going to have to get Kevin. I don't want to speak secondhand for Kevin, but I think if you brought him online, he could fill up a whole series.
Yeah. I would love to do that. So I got to try to track him down. So I'll follow up with you on that to get his contact. And the thing about Casey, that people don't realize, he has a Stock Eliminator 69 Z28 Camaro that is street legal. So he has no problem leaving and going down the street. He has no problem doing that. He's got exhaust on it, and
first time I met him was at Atlanta. I think I want to say it was 2005. And he was pitted next to me, and he broke a U-joint, noodled the drive shaft, messed up the tail housing on his Jericho and the yoke on the rear end, and he was kind of done. And then I go, well, hey, I got, I got a tail housing, I've got a yoke, I've got some parts here, if you can get a drive shaft. And anyway, he's like, I'm done. Well, then like 2 hours later or so, he comes back with a brand new drive shaft. Apparently they called him the tower and somebody was able to make one. So he gets it together and he goes, hey, you want to go for a ride? And I'd never, I just met him, right? And I thought, that's a cool car. I go, yeah, I'll go for a ride. I think we're going to drive around the pits, right? We go out the gate, down 441, over to the gas station to get a slushie, and I'm like, what the hell? Aren't you worried about getting busted? He goes, well, what's not to like? It's got plates, insurance, mufflers. He goes, yeah, they might hassle me for the slicks, but I'm like, oh my gosh.
Yeah. So, you're lucky he didn't warm it up. You know what I mean? Because he will. But Casey will.
Yeah, it's a original motion car. I mean, it's he owned that car. He was not the first owner, but the second. And I don't think it'd been in the original owner's hands. I don't know, maybe a year or less. It was basically a new car when he bought it.
Okay. Yeah, and there's just something there's a real big cool factor when you have a stock eliminator car that you can actually just take out on the street.
Oh yeah, well, don't get me started. He and I don't agree on that.
Yeah, I know.
If I had a that thing in my garage, it'd be 300 pounds lighter in about 3 hours.
Oh yeah, now he has everything on that car.
He wouldn't be happy with me, but it would not be a street car anymore.
Right. I showed you
a little bit of chopping will be going on, huh?
Yeah,
I wouldn't do anything that couldn't be undone. Put it that way. But we have a difference of opinion on that, and it's his car, so he's going to win that one every time.
That's true. That's true. And I'm sorry, Jim. I didn't mean to get off topic, but
that's all right.
You're bringing up some really good times and good people for sure. But as Mitchell said before, Jim, thank you very much for coming on and your crazy busy schedule. Ladies and gentlemen, I've been trying to line up schedules between racing and work and all that stuff to come on. So thank you very much for coming on. Now, ladies and gentlemen who are not familiar with Jim so much, has a long history. You and your brother have a long history of racing in stock and super stock. And the great thing is it's been with manual shifts, been with stick cars. The entire time that I've ever seen you and your brother's been with stick cars. So you're well known around our division, up in Division 3, we all run all the time. But tell us, tell us about when you got started. When did you get started in cars or interested in cars? Was your family interested in it?
Yeah, well, my grandpa Schaechter and his brother owned a garage in Viola, Illinois, a little town in Illinois. So I guess it was in my blood a little bit. And then on my grandpa Ricky, my mom's dad, was owned a body shop, and I mean just kind of a one-man show thing. But he did lead work, and he was a welder, and he would fix and fiddle with everything. And so my brother Joe and I would go over to their house and he would teach us how to do stuff, and probably most of it, it's like a good thing there wasn't the internet around. We're doing unsafe things. We're young kids playing with torches and up on rickety ladders and, we love that time with him. But the real thing that got me into drag racing was the house next door to us came up for sale, and the new owners moved in, and that caught our eye. They drove in the 71 Corvette 454, T-top car, bright red. Well, of course, that's going to catch your eye when you're, 10, 11 years old. Oh, and next thing you know, they move in, but the Corvette's gone. Well, that was Bob Gibson and his wife, Sherry. And they sold the Corvette to help pay for the down payment. And he backs in there with a Suburban and an open trailer. He had a 65 Nova Super Stock J automatic. And that was the first time I'd really seen a drag car up close at all. And I was interested in wanting to work on it, but he's like, look, you got to work on other stuff before you can work on a race car. And then the Nova left. He sold the Nova. And he buys a 69 Camaro that was Stan Stripes, who used to run Alcohol Dragster. It was an A modified production. He bought it as a roller, and that became Super Stock E automatic. And so we got to do a lot of work and go racing with that in the early 80s. And in fact, my first time I went to Indy with a car was 81, and I wasn't driving it then, but Bob was, and I was on the crew. So I've been coming to Indy for a long time, and that car was really talk about lightweight cars. That car was dipped to the max and lightweight glass, and anything you couldn't see was lighter than it should be. The first time we took it to a race, Bob expected it to be 200 some pounds heavy, and it was about 250 light. So we couldn't even run down. We couldn't go down to class and add all the weight we had and make it. So we just tested and went home. That's how light it was. And anyway, that car ended up being a street racer at one time. And we were, so Bob was into super stock at the time. And there was a guy, he had it for sale. And there was a guy who was a street racer that we still talk to this day. And he said, hey, I want to buy your car. And Bob's like, well, we're already entered for Indy. Can we sell you the car and then pick it up and take it to Indy? And he's like, yeah, sure. I just need it, because he had a double or nothing race that he had to commit to, because he had won a race and blown up the engine. And the deal that those guys had at the time, or that he had, was that if you lose, you can challenge double or nothing. And if you don't commit, you can't keep the money. He didn't want to give up the money. So he saw this car for sale. He pulls up with a Buick Electra with a bunch of his buddies in an open trailer in Iowa, where Bob lived at the time, bought the car, did what they needed to do with it. And then we went by the south side of Chicago and picked it up on the way to Indy. And I'll leave you with the last thought. We go up to make a run and shooting ducks. We wonder what the deal was. Every valve spring was junk on it. We had to put 16 valve springs on it. But Bob Gibson and his wife Sherry introduced my brother and I to racing, and we got to learn so much from him. And he's still racing to this day. But he's a science teacher, so everything is connected, with physics and metallurgy and weather and how things fit together. So you would call it applied sciences. So it really helped us in a lot of ways, because it helped us stay probably a little better with our focus on school, because we could take the boring crap at school and apply it to something we could use. And anyone that drag races knows most of the stuff you learn in high school when it comes to science and really even English for communication and things like that can be applied to racing. But often teachers don't know how to paint that picture for students. And not every student's going to want to be a racer, but in our case, it made perfect sense for us. So it was important. So we wanted to learn about meteorology. We wanted to learn about physics and, force. And we wanted to know about welding. We wanted to know about metallurgy. We wanted to learn all these things because we were trying to figure out how we could use it in racing. So I credit him with all that. Plus, he's a really, really good racer. So I haven't learned nearly enough from him, because I'm not that good. But with his coaching, I've been able to have some success here and there over the years. And, I kind of look at it this way. I really love making the car more efficient. And that's probably my fault, because I'm more concerned about what the car's doing often than what I'm doing. And when I was younger, I would just get in the car ready to go. They just say, shut up and run that we'll dial it. You get in and run it, life was easier in that way, because I was just the guy driving. So I didn't have a care in the world. And now I get so ingrained in how the car's doing everything. Sometimes I forget about the race. So that's my own fault in that way. But I tend to focus a little more for the class eliminations, because my heart's in that. Right. But I figure it this way. Look, I can beat anybody on any given day. I really can. I feel like I'm competitive. I just don't know what day that's going to be, right? So I try to prepare the car. The cars that I have are really good, and they usually try to save me. I don't always let them.
So what are your upcoming races that you're going to be running this year?
Yeah, we're on the Division II Siesta right now, right? I mean, there's not a lot going on right now. I had planned to go to the Sports Nationals in Bowling Green, and the monsoon season took that one up. So I've got a little free time on my hand. The next official race for me, will be the Sports Nationals at Bowling Green in August, and that's going to roll right into the points meet and then right into Indy. So it's going to be that's going to be a wild race, because it's going to it always attracts a lot of great cars. It's going to be even more, because if you like class, you're going to get to run class and then a points meet and then class again in Indy and of course Indy. So I expect that to be just a great race. And then after Indy, there's a few more Division II races that I'll hit, but I'm going to take advantage of this one to do some updates. The Cavaliers and Jamie Caudell's shop, getting some work done just to update it. And then the Nova, I've got some engine things I want to do to test. I'm anxiously awaiting some new tires from Mickey Thompson. They're making a pro bracket radial in a 9x30. And not that don't let the name fool you. I've run pro bracket radials on my 5-speed Liberty Cavalier for years, and other than being a little heavy, they're amazing because they just don't wear out, and they're still pretty dang quick for a stick car. I think it's got a lot of opportunity because the harder compound keeps it from being so twitchy on the starter line. Like you might spin a little bit, but it doesn't, it's not like is difficult to manage a starting line that might be tricky. So I run radials that are standard Pro ETs on my 65 Nova. They're faster than the bias. However, there is a narrow tuning window with that softer compound. So I'm really looking forward to the Pro Bracket radial in that size. I think it's going to, even if it's not quicker, it'll be close. And if nothing else, I can leave it on for almost all the races and then just put the lighter tires on for class and, record runs and stuff like that. So as you can tell, I've been hounding them, I'm supposed to get some in my hand. So I'm looking forward to testing that. And just, anybody that really is serious about going to Indy, they're already prepping for Indy. So I am too.
Oh, yeah, no, it's very true. I've already talked to a couple people, and they're like going, well, they're working on their car. If they can get to where they feel comfortable, they can qualify because their combo's been hit hard.
Hey, I've been on every side of that equation. I mean, I've been, the first Indy I actually drove in was 1986, and I drove an automatic back then. If you might know, it was a super stock A super modified with an automatic, and
wow. Okay,
and in class, I mean, Harold Stout, like basically I left on him by forever today, and he passed me in low gear. I mean, I was mean. And my good friend who did my engine work until he passed, Willie DeVore, had an Oldsmobile powered Oldsmobile Cutlass with a stick shift in Superstock gas, and he ended up beating Harold in the finals class and
really?
running well. So I've gone to that where I've got my butt kicked in different cars, not qualified. You don't just show up and dominate, but I've had years where I've been really in a good position qualifying in class wise, won class many times, been through teardown many times there. But I've also been in the stands watching and not participating. I did get in this when I first started running the Super Stocker. I didn't qualify, but one thing you might know about Indy, there's a lot of alternates many times. And back then, most of the Hemi guys went home. It's not always the case now. So you're in the back of the lanes hoping to get in as an alternate. And I did. And I got down to the final 4 cars, So if you're an alternate, if you don't know this, it's really, there's no downside unless you're running for points. If you win rounds or win an event and you were an alternate, you don't get points. You get a grade.
You don't, or you do?
You don't.
Oh.
So that's one of the differences there. And I don't think that's changed. I mean, I haven't really stayed close to it, but so for me, I wasn't running for points. It wasn't no big deal, but yeah, I've been down to the semis a few times there and I've won it once. And all those times have been a stick shift, but I never technically qualified when I ran an automatic. And people will tell me all the time, the automatics are so much easier. In a lot of ways they are. And there's certainly some advantages from a driver perspective because the job setup, as it were, is much easier in terms of consistently cutting a light. But that's not really an excuse because people do it with a stick shift. And if you're on, you're on, and as far as consistency down track, there's really no problem. It's really this, leaving off your hand with a just-in-time button that's, you can adjust, and that's a lot easier situation than trying to get your left leg to participate. But there's people that do it, and I, hey, if I'm on, I'm comfortable lining up against anybody. So
now I got a question for you. So driving a stick car, are you able to play around with the clutch pedal a little bit to help you on those reaction times? Are there different ways that you can help control the letting go of the clutch?
Well, in a way, yeah, there's adjustment there. There's limits to the adjustment because you've got to have the right clearance between your throw-out bearing and the levers, and you got to have the right air gap, which means, if you don't have enough air gap and you rev it up, it could pull you through the beams. And that's happened to me. And pretty much anyone with a stick, you ever see one, if you're bumping real light and you bring the motor up and all of a sudden the car starts rolling forward, it's probably because you were a little too tight on air gap. And if you're too wide on air gap, it can hit the tires too hard. So I'm going to say yes, but there's not like a ton, but there's room in there. There's a lot. And there's a nice adjustment in RPM. Usually you've got some adjustment up or down you can do. And some people prefer to do that. And then there's some adjustment you can do to the clutch pedal, the ratio, so I'm not going to say there aren't adjustments, but they're not as, usually you got to get down in there and do something, right?
Right. It's not like adding a shim underneath a button or
not quite. But if you're just changing RPM, like you're just sitting in the car and if you go, you know what, I need a couple, you can usually go up or down, 200 or 300 RPM without really affecting the clutch so much, but it might pick you up or slow you down a little bit. But it all depends on how your clutch is set up. I use Rob Youngblood is the guy that I use for clutches, and he's got advanced clutches, and I just love the stuff. So for me, that gives me some flexibility. So yeah, the answer is yes, but it's not like just twisting a knob unless you're just going on RPM.
Right. And I still feel that two things. One, I don't think air shifters are necessary, especially in Stock Eliminator. That's my opinion. People can say all this stuff about safety in super stock, but if you have a manual shift, your hand is on the shifter. You're shifting, your left hand is still on the steering wheel. That does not move. Okay, so I don't buy that argument. Same thing in Stock Eliminator.
There's a time and place for all that, and I think the ship sailed, but I don't. I didn't necessarily feel like it was necessary. And I have some buddies, most of my buddies race automatics because there's very few of us with stick shifts, right? And I would always get when they talk about parity and rules and, hey, what about the stick shifts? We're a step further away from parity, from driver aids and all these things. And I get this, well, nobody forced you to run a stick shift. So I was giving it back to them when they're like, it's no fair. We don't have the COT bottles. We don't have the E-shift, the newer ones. I'm like, well, nobody told you to run a 67 Camaro, but they got what they wanted. And you know what? I'm not driving their car, so I'm not going to worry about it. It is what it is.
I would say you can't help, you got to say
you can't. There are some really fast cars out there. You look at the Pro Mods. You look at some of the guys I work with are driving 6-second street cars. I get it. You got to have death grip on the wheel and be ready to hit that parachute. You're going to have a harder time. It's not that it doesn't get done, but it's a lot harder and everything. But I'm sorry, if you're driving a stocker or even a super stocker and you can't move that shifter an inch a couple times, maybe it's time for a new sport. But I'm not going to make anyone else happy with that one. That's just my.
It's okay. It's true. But
I mean, look, it's not my car. I worry about driving my car. To be fair,
completely with.
And I'll tell you one thing they'll never take away from a stick shift driver is how much fun we're having.
No, that's true. Everybody I've talked to, no matter how quick or classification or slow the classification, is the same thing. But I will say this much: when it comes down to stock and super stock, that I have noticed, and I'm sure everybody else has noticed, the lower classifications in the manual shift side versus the automatic side is ridiculous on indexes. The indexes are far harder on the stick side than the automatic, and I think that's a huge deterrent for anybody that wants to run like I said, a Super K, or let's say a Super K car down.
Well,
it's not index.
I will tell you, I'm a proponent of having more class heads-up runs. And if you look at the stock and super stock, and I looked at this in super stock when I ran GTG most of the time. And if you look at like F, G, and H, and like G, for example, you get 2/10 to have an automatic. There's no slush box in this world 2/10 slower than a stick these days, unless you're running some old Power Glide, right? And people don't. They're running some really nice stuff out there. Right. And so a lot of those, if NHRA were to look at it, and this is world according to Jim, it's not hard for them to determine, because some of them, the automatics are really a lot slower, and some of them doesn't matter. And usually you can tell if you look at the horsepower factors on certain combos and certain classes, and if that thing's got 10, 12, 15 horse laid on it, it's probably because the index was too soft. And if you're running an automatic, wouldn't you have rather had that harder index and still be at 279 instead of 298 on horsepower? Now they might be running the same, and they're running far under, but they're carrying a lot more weight. So there's opportunity there. Will anyone ever change it? I don't know, but I think there's so many classes, it's hard to have heads up. And I like running into a heads up run, and I don't win them all either, by the way. I'm not saying it because I've got the lock on it, because I really don't. I'm not normally the fastest guy out there. I'm usually in the hunt, and I feel like I'm competitive. But it's not like I'm waiting for somebody to come by and run over them with my car, because I'm not that guy. I'm not normally that much quicker. I'm competitive, and that's all you can ask for. So I'd love to see more groupings where the index was maybe a little closer. And if you look at the classes, to be fair, there's some of them that are really close, and there's some of them that are hard for automatics too. So they're not. You can't just say cut the same amount on every one. So I don't know that it's ever going to happen, because that would actually be some work. And of course you're never going to make everyone happy. But I mean, if you follow the analytics like a Bobby Fazio, who's the math is, he could probably get his napkin out and do a regression analysis or something fancy, and offer an idea. I probably couldn't, I'm a little more biased, with what I want and and we all are.
And
NHRA's credit, it's hard because everybody that comes to them is a politician wanting a rule change, right? Whether you want to eliminate blinders or you've got undue influence and you're pecking away at the tech department's door trying to make a change. Hey, sometimes it's for the good of the sport. Sometimes it's just some dude or dudette wanting to change it for their benefit, right? And they've got to measure all that out, and I don't envy that.
Yeah. I agree. There's no let's say total equality on everything. There's no way that you can make everything completely parity with so many different combinations and so many different indexes and class. But I will say this part, and I'm a firm believer of this at Indy. And I know people say let them loose with the horsepower thing, and I understand that. I can respect that. It's Indy. You're supposed to run all out. But if any car can run 120, 130 under in August heat in the middle of the day, and they're running 130, 140 or more, that they need to look at that. That car is in the wrong class, or you know what I mean? Something.
Well, last year up in Indy, it was a whole lot cooler than what it had been in the past.
Right,
and
but they had
the horsepower. That would affect it.
But they had the
Indy's usually got the best and worst weather at the same race. It just depends on when the luck of the draw is when you're running,
Right.
But I know we're completely off the rails here, but I'll give you something to think about that might steer us back into some place we originally thought.
Sorry about that.
I could do this all night, so we're just boring the hell out of everybody. But but I would say this is that there's a big difference. So I get this all the time. People will say my combo's bad, my combo's good, and that can be very true. And it's up to you to pick the right one, and hopefully it doesn't get punished by someone else. But there's a lot of variability between Racer X and Racer Y's cars a lot of times, and it can be a half second or better just on making the car good. I'll give you an example, and this is where I'm going to lead back into where we're at. I try to make my cars as efficient as I can afford them to be. Just like everyone else, you make a list of things you want to buy, and then you just keep working on them. And you might make a list that's just this long, and you only get down this far, right? But you keep working at it. And some of these guys that are really fast have been driving these cars. Maybe they're second generation, and these are cars that have been rubbed on and tested and managed for decades or years. And they test and they try and they do things to make the car better. I try to do that. I'm not the smartest guy in the world, but I'm not afraid to try stuff. And I know some really smart people, so that helps too. And so with the 65 Nova, when it was Bob Gibson's car, and it took a long time to get out of the body shop and get ready to put it together. So he already had a whole nother car built. So he's like, man, I got to buy everything for this other car. So what we did is everybody, we had a lot of parts. Everybody had their spare parts, and we threw them on the 65 Nova to get it run. And it ran pretty good. I drove it at Joliet. I drove it at Indy, got my butt waxed at class, didn't qualify, but it ran okay. It just wasn't sorted out. It was basically a new car, but a lot of used stuff on it and a lot of stuff that could have been a little more efficient or more modern. So when Bob decided to sell it, he's like, I don't need two cars. I bought it. And I spent about a year and a half upgrading the car from bumper to bumper. The two things that I didn't touch the engine, and I didn't touch the transmission. Clutch, of course, rear end, brakes, moving weight, getting things lightened the way they were, shocks, front suspension, rear suspension. And I even went so far as to cut the roll bar out and have Jamie Cadell weld in this gorgeous roll cage, chromoly roll cage. So we picked up 0.3 of a second. Yeah. 0.3 of a second, and we didn't touch the engine. The only thing I did on the engine was check the valves and change the oil, honestly. Right. And so when people tell me that it's not fair and they want a rule change, and there's two problems with that. Number one, it's the age-old process. Did you really maximize the efficiency of what you have and make it the best you can afford to make it be? Because everyone's got a different budget. And the other part that you have to think about is that when you do all those things and you've got a reasonable index, what did you learn to make it more efficient? What did you do? Because with a stock eliminator car, we're talking stockers, but super stock is the same. You can, and except for the fast supercharged cars, you can generally throw as much power as you've got at it. And so it's not about like how much power you have, it's about how much you don't waste, so there's a lot of folks that they want a rule concession because they think, and sometimes it's inexperienced, they think they're the only one that's going to apply it. So roller cams, and everyone's like, oh my gosh, we need roller cams, they're cheaper and everything. And you could make that case. I don't agree with it yet. I don't think we're there yet in stock, but they think it's going to be so much better for them, but they don't realize that, like a guy like my buddy John Duzak and George Peterson, you allow that Z28 to have a roller cam, you're going to find 20 more horsepower, dude. What, just because you use it, you don't think they're going to buy 6 camshafts and dyno test it, and now they're going to run that thing at 9,200 RPM? Hell yeah, they're going to do it, So oftentimes with a rule change, people don't look at it with a broader view and say, is anyone else going to benefit from it? They think they're going to catch up, when all they're going to do is stay the same place or go behind for some of these concessions. Now,
everybody's got to keep up with the Joneses.
So there's just more than one way to look at that thing. And so when I came into and here's where I promise, Your Honor, this is where I'm getting back to the story. I met the founder, Warren Gilliland of TBM Brakes, many years ago when my friend Tom Turco worked for Schumacher's nitro cars, and he worked for them for many years. Warren at that time was building brakes for nitro cars. And my friend Tom goes, hey, you need to have Warren make these for your Nova, man. And he, at the time, he didn't make any for a Nova, but they were super cool. So I always had my eye sideways on that. If fast forward when we're racing the Nova and the Cavalier, and I'm trying to lighten it up, I'm like, oh, I can put brakes on my super stock Cavalier. So I swapped everything out and went to TBM stuff. And this is before I worked for him. This is before Doug owned TBM. And I was so happy with how they were. I couldn't believe how much better it was. And I saved like 36 pounds between the brakes I had on the car versus what I put on it. And I will say, granted, the backs were kind of heavy because they had an emergency brake provision built in, and it was a good idea at the time. It was, hey, if you break a drive shaft or something, you can still like pull the emergency brake in the car. You can park it and get out and go get help or whatever. So that was why. But I was on a diet and for the car anyway. And that was my first introduction to TBM. So when I retired from UPS after 38 years, I was kind of looking for something to do, because you can't go from working at a job like that to zero. You'll go nuts. And if you're going to race in retirement, that math doesn't math, right? So you need some money. Right. And through some common friends, I ended up in a conversation with Doug Cook, who's the CEO of Motion Raceworks, TBM Brakes, and now Mark Williams. Right. And he and I had some discussions. I went down to TBM in Florida. I went to Motion and met him in Iowa, and we kind of got tours. And we and the solve he was looking for was to introduce TBM Brakes to the NHRA market, because very few people knew about them, because they were a small company. He'd only owned them a couple of years. And in their world, they were really well embedded because he'd run TBM Brakes for a long time. He was a dealer. He had sold a ton of them in the drag and drive world and the turbo guys that were fast and some of the imports. He'd really done a lot there. Right. But in the NHRA space, while he was very aware of it, he didn't really have a lot of like footprint there to show it off. So that was how we came about. And the question I would get with people when they would see these brakes and I'd show them to them, they're like, how come I don't know about these? Why haven't I seen this before? Right. And I would just explain to them, well, that's why I'm here, because once people learn about them, they'll realize that we have a lot to offer for your program. And, I often will jack up a car and let them spin the front wheel on the Nova or the Cavalier, because they think that my prop is some special prop. And like, no, it's not, it's just, that's what I run. So we'll jack it up and let them do it. Hey, spin it as soft and as hard as you want and check it out. I can coast forever in that thing. And all these things are, when you're getting to that point and you're measuring drag, it's not like you're going to pick up a half second with something like that. But the difference between a good car and a great car is when you start doing all these things. And I would always explain it like this. When you come to Indy and all the fastest cars are there and somebody's 300 to 500s quicker and nobody knows why, it's because they've done all these things, right? So at Indy, you're generally not racing beginners. You're generally racing people that have very good cars. And if you can get close enough to be competitive, that's your goal. Well, you aren't going to be competitive unless you start doing things like this. And the other thing about the TBM that has really come about, that people are learning too, is that it's not just that it's more efficient, it's lighter, the zero drag component, all that stuff, and the durability. It's that people are going rounds and winning races with them too, right? So you see Jimmy Hidalgo in there, and Longhingies, and so yeah, okay, I like going fast and winning class, but look, there's people winning races with our stuff out there every single race. And the Comp Eliminator it's like we became the open secret all of a sudden, and I'm selling a lot of Comp Eliminator guys on brakes too. And nobody's crazier about weight and efficiency than those guys.
Boy, that's so true. Oh my gracious, man! I've seen.
Well, and that's why I was asking you, before the show even started, talking about my car, what y'all offered for it, because I'm the same way. It's a real heavy car, so I'm always looking at other opportunities to make that car a lot lighter. Anywhere, either it's changing wheels.
I sent you a link already. Shameless plug. You check your phone. We make them for that Challenger, and I mean our XS3 brakes are built by us in house. See, one thing I'll say one of the many things that's really cool about TBM is that, first of all, we've got great people that love what they do, and they're super smart. We got people that came over from aerospace. They're all racers or motorsports enthusiasts at least. And they love tinkering and learning and applying what they've learned. And, when I go down to TBM to learn and to meet the guys, or I've got projects occasionally, I'm down there. I'll stay late. There's always somebody staying late in the office, like doing a prototype, because if they've got a machine offline, they don't want to take it out of production during the day. They'll do a 3D model print, and then they'll do a design in real, parts, and start testing the stuff out. So there's always something going on. Or they're working on El Toro, or Doug's car, or a Snot Rocket might be in there. Brett LaSala might be in there tweaking something. So there's always something going on that helps us get better and learn and do more things, or it's a new design. And we'll have, you saw a picture of Joey Costello. If you know Joey, he's the voice of NHRA. He's also a racer. He's got that beautiful Super Streeter that his dad bought new. He came to the shop, and we installed TBMs right on the car, right there in the shop, for his, and he had to shovel some weight back in the car because of it. So we've had Roy Hill has brought some of his cars down there a couple years ago, and on his Cobra Jets, and we put them on right at the shop. He drove all the way down from the Carolinas nonstop, and we put them on, and they drove all back. The guy's hardcore, So there's always something going on, because we're always trying to innovate and learn. So we don't stand still. And with me being in the field, I get to meet customers and potential customers up front, people that I know, and people that just come up and want to talk because they see my display and they want to learn and they want to know about their car and what they can do. Or they might have an idea and they say, hey, why don't you make this, or why don't you do that? And I can bring it back to the team, because we have some great perspective and ideas, but we don't know everything. So, hey, it's a blessing to have somebody come up and ask you, hey, have you ever heard of this? Or what about doing that? Maybe we hadn't thought of it, right? I love it. In Florida, in the early races, like when you and I, Robert, had an interview, I get more international exposure there too, because of one of the upsides to social media is that it shrinks the world. And you get a lot of folks, especially from the Scandinavian countries, that want to get the heck out of the cold. And Florida is a great place if you're a car enthusiast. Even the UK, I had some great friends and customers. They come in, they seek me out, and they want to meet me in person. And I love that. And we get to show off the cars and show them the products firsthand. And the internet's wonderful. I mean, you can see so much, but nothing replaces being able to touch the stuff and see it in person. So we're out there, we're at events, and you can see real live parts in action and talk to a real person that is more than just a shirt with a badge on it. It's somebody that uses the product. And I ran TBMs on my Cavalier for 6 years before I ever had a thought of coming over to work for TBM, because I had a day job. So I love that exposure. I've gained a lot of great customers in Finland, Sweden, Denmark, United Kingdom, Germany, Canada, and that's just to name a few. And I'm just one person, right? I mean, so I love that. And when I give an opportunity to meet somebody that wants to know more about our products, I get excited because I really love the stuff. So it's not even like, it's true. It's not even like working when the people are great to work with. I feel like we've known each other for a long time because we have similar interests, and they're always innovating. Dennis Lund is our head engineer up at Motion Raceworks, and he runs one of our factory team cars. We've got two copos. Andy Cook Doug's brother, who's also an engineer up in motion. He runs one, and Doug runs one. But Doug's also got a 305 third-gen Camaro stocker. He's also got a Cavalier modified SB2 powered machine. His uncle, Mike Lund Sr., I mean, a longtime racer back to the early pro stock days. And of course, he's got cousins and that all race. And his dad races. So there's a lot of great perspective of all different parts. So I kind of focus in on the stock and super stock and some of the street rod stuff because that's what I'm most comfortable with and that's what I see. But it doesn't mean I can't answer a question there. And now with Mark Williams as part of the family, I've had great opportunities to do more. And I will say one area that I learned a lot about, even though I technically raced Super Comp one time, I don't normally do that stuff. But I learned a lot from those folks. And one of the things that I've been able to bring to some of the Super Street and Super Gas and Super Comp, but especially Super Street lately, everybody's really moved towards running a lot more mile an hour on the other end. So a couple years ago, I had some Super Street guys come and say, these brakes are bleep, bleep, bleep. And they weren't Mars. And there probably wasn't anything wrong with them. They were just, if you look at Super Street, a lot of times they're older race cars that are kind of cool, like some old Vegas and Monzas that, heck, they might have been 3-link pro stock cars at one time and they have JFCs or Willwoods, nothing wrong with any of that. But these might be brakes that were put on in the 70s and they were built for a car that would go 140 miles an hour and it worked for them. Well, now some of those guys in Super Street are going 160 or better. And all of a sudden, they've invested in their horsepower package because they're all trying to have the top end speed they want. And again, same thing's true for Super Comp and Super Gas. They all want that big mile an hour. Now they got a brake problem. And it's not something you want to have a problem with. So you're talking master cylinders, checking your, the calipers, the lines, the overall design, what piston size do you have in the master cylinder? And so I'm getting a lot of people upgrading to our brake platform and they never had a problem before. The other thing that this opened my eyes to is maintenance. Mm-hmm. So too often, and I have to say I was pretty guilty of this too. Hey, you put the car away at the end of the year. It stopped great when I left it. I don't know I'm not expecting any problems. And you know what? A lot of times you don't get any problems. It's just you get out there, you throw the motor trans in, and like us, we're going to Orlando from Illinois. We drive 21 hours straight, and we just assume all that stuff's going to work. We didn't hit the trailer on the way in. Why? Well, I'm not expecting a problem. And little things like even just flushing your fluid out is a big deal. Right. And really getting to look and making sure that if you don't have TBM brakes, but even TBM brakes, there's maintenance involved. Are the pads wearing evenly? Are they worn? Do you need new ones? Have you changed the brake fluid out? Are there any fittings loose? Are your lines still routed in the clips the way you want to? I mean, so you can't take anything for granted, and especially as fast as all these cars are these days, right? When I first started seeing Super Gas, they were going 120, because they were taking off and then backing into everybody. And there's only a few people that do that now. They're going 170, 180 miles an hour, as a routine. You got Super Comp dragsters doing 185 and they're hitting the first turnoff because they're in a hurry to get back. That's putting a lot of wear on your brakes. So no matter whose brakes you run, I don't care who you have, you got to maintain them. So that's something that I try to raise the awareness on. And when I'm at the track, I bring fluid. I've got fittings. I've got calipers and pads and rotors and stuff like that. And while I may not have everything for other components, hey, if you need help, come see me. Even if it's not our brand, if it's something I can do to help you, I'm happy to help. We're racers and we help each other by nature. That's what sportsmen do. And I'm a sportsman racer. And you know what? If the other part of that is if I help somebody, maybe they'll think of me next time. Because my boss, Doug Cook, he thinks back to the days, and I remember this too, and you guys do too, when there were factory reps on site, and they would, and it's not that there aren't any there, but there's fewer of them, and a lot of the folks that are there repping are great, but they aren't always there with hands-on experience with the product, and so they may only be reading back what they've read themselves. Whereas, I feel like in my area of expertise, I've got hundreds and hundreds of runs. And I've done all my own maintenance, and I feel like, hey, I'm pretty comfortable with the product that I'm talking to you about. And if I don't know, I've got a phone, and I've got numbers of some really smart people that answer any question that I don't have the answer for. So I'm not going to tell you something wrong if I have to go check. That I'm not too proud. And I find that out like with Mark Williams, same thing. It's like when I was updating the Nova, I'd always wanted a Mark Williams rear end housing, a complete one. And so you think about when you tell people things, and it doesn't necessarily mean they're going to buy something tomorrow. I'm just like everyone else. I can only afford so much time. So I'm in teardown next to Bobby Twynham, who's one of Ficacci's, right? And he had a he had a B stick Nova, and we're at Montgomery, Alabama, when it was an NHRA track years ago, and it's dark, and we're outside helping each other, like holding the light, right? And we're in teardown, and he's in teardown, and we're talking, and he tells me about his car, and he tells me he's got a Mark Williams aluminum spool with 35 spline axles and a Rat Motor Nova in B stick, which is no lightweight. Right. And that stuck with me. And I always wanted that, because I'm like, you know what? If that lives in a Rat Motor Nova, it's going to live in my little small block Nova, no problem. So that's what I did with the 65 when it was time to change housing and everything, man. And not counting the brakes, even just flange to flange, it was 14 pounds lighter in all the right places and strong. Really. And so
35 splines in it with
35 spline aluminum spool and a titanium 5/8 studs, and then the TBM brakes to crown it off. And again, this is a long-term play. It's not like something, well, yeah, you do that, but you got to change all the time. No, you don't. The stuff's durable, it's high quality, and the design's amazing. And our 35 spline in Mark Williams is a slightly different pressure, angle. It's a proprietary thing. So our 35 spline doesn't fit other 35s, but we do make standard 35 spline for people who want it. And we have, of course, the 28 spline stuff and all that. We've got 40 splines, pretty common across the board. We've got that. So we've got a lot of great stuff. In my Cavalier, I have Mark Williams third member chunks with the Mark Williams aluminum spools with my Cavalier with a stick shift. And you know how many failures I've had running those things over the years?
I'd say 0.
Yeah, 0. I mean, they don't even make noise.
You might have cracked a gear here and there, but not even that. Yeah. Oh, okay. Yeah. I just figured that's typical wear and tear. That just
and I will say it's a fairly light car, right? The heaviest I run the Cavalier is 2,800 pounds, but I'm running it in factory GT now, which is a Copo 350 naturally aspirated engine with a 5-speed Liberty. And I'm new to this, so I'm just learning. But it's run pretty good. And
that's the Nova that you ran at South Georgia.
Yeah, that was the last year I ran it, but in South Georgia I ran my Nova, but the Cavalier is in factory GT. So at Indy, at Bowling Green, in fact, the first race I ran in factory GT, I got down to the final 3 cars at Bowling Green, and I was really happy with how quickly it picked up. And again, you talk about smart people. You have some pretty smart people with the tuning and I couldn't just do you don't just dream this stuff on your own. There's those rare few people that can do it all. I'm not that guy. I have to have some smart people, and I try to learn from them and not screw it up. So Bob Seaworth is like a amazing dyno operator and tuner, and he's in the middle of nowhere in Iowa, close to Orville, Iowa. And I believe it comes out Zwingle, Iowa, but he races a stick shift Cobra Jet 352 stocker that's real fast that Bill Dyer had built, and he's improved upon. But he really has done a lot for my fuel injection tuning, and he helped me swap over from standard 23-degree small block LT1 to the Copo. Willie DeVore did the engine, and Calvin Elston did the headers. Mm-hmm. And so you're talking about a lot of smaller people there. And I went over to Bob's house, and he worked with me 3 days straight, like 8 in the morning till midnight to swap everything over. And he had dynoed the engine. He brought the tune in. So again, not everyone knows everything. So when it comes to the brakes, TBM's my experts, Mark Williams, my experts. If I don't know, they know. Mark Williams has a lot of innovation there in the drivetrain department, which lovely, wonderful stuff. And then motion, we have such an assortment of new things. And, there's a lot of things even on my stock I say hiding in plain sight that are from motion. Catch can, for example, I mean, I solved a problem that I had just by, and Doug came to me and he goes, dude, you need to put this on your car. And I was having problems with the oil control because it was just one of those things. The engine ran good, but got a little greedy on the oil rings, I think. And it just weren't controlling the oil. And a catch can didn't quit the oil problem in the engine, but it contained it. So I ran that engine and it was fast, but before I had the catch can on there, man, I was going to get black flag because it was pushing oil out all over the breathers. I'm wrapping socks and underwears around my breathers at Joliet, trying to keep, and it's pushing out oil. I'm lucky the seals didn't blow out. And I put the catch can on, and all I did then is after every race, I'd just take a little cup and drain the catch can and pour it back in the motor, and I ran that engine that way for, like I said, a year and a half, and it was fast. It just, something I had to fix when I had it torn down. And then we have a 2-stage catch can now that is great in stock and super stock for other reasons too. And it was designed for kind of the drag and drive crowd to keep the fumes out of the car when these guys running race cars are driving, between track to track, a lot of these turbocharged cars and stuff. And I looked at it as an opportunity to have cleaner air in the PCV system. And so if any of you stock and super stockers want to know more about that, message me or you can, email me at jim@tbmbrakes.com. If you want to get a hold of me too, at whether it's Motion, Mark Williams, or TBM, and you call there, and because I'm on the road, right? I'm not in the office typically. You just ask for Uncle Jim, and they'll get a message to me too. So
I get a kick out of that. You're like, just say Uncle Jim. But no, sorry, you were saying. I just love it how you said it. Just ask for Uncle Jim.
so I know we're burning daylight here, and I've got all the time in the world. But what questions did you guys have for me?
I want to ask a ton of technical questions, but I'll save that for a couple minutes. But back to when you were saying you got started, okay, and you got started with your neighbor and you started going to Indy like that. I saw on your Facebook page where actually I think you had a daily and you were racing a Monza locally. Okay, I've always had a soft spot for Monza because that was literally my first street car, my first car that I ever had, and I built it with my dad. It was a 4-cylinder. We were going to build a GT car out of it. That's literally what we're going to do, and plans changed, and I came of age, and my dad's like, I can't buy you a car. You don't have enough money for a car. I'll tell you what, you do the labor. I'll pay for the machine work and parts, to put it together. So it was a 4-cylinder automatic car, but still built that thing from one end to the other. But that was what I was impressed that you said it was a pretty good daily and you bracket raced it.
I tell you what, I love Monzas myself too, but they're cheap cars. They're basically a fancier looking Vega, in stock form. But they fit a V8, and there's that, right? And so I had several of them, and of course I'd go to the boneyard and go shopping for stuff. I had the first Monza I got actually was also Bob Gibson's. He was building a street rod, and I don't know, he just wasn't feeling it, so I bought it from him, and he put a 350 with a hydraulic cam and smogger heads on it, and a turbo 350 with a Vega converter. And I got it from him. Then I took the axles out. Another good friend of mine, Rob Turkle, he's a tool and die maker. So he actually re-drilled the 4-lug axles to 5-lug so I could put some Corvette rallies on that would fit. And I had airbags and it would run like low 13s. And then I hopped it up and I put double ump heads and a solid cam and roller rockers. And it got to where it would go low 12s, 12 12 teens at like 110, 111. And I drove it every day, but I'm shocked I never broke the ring and pinion. It had a torque arm like the Camaros, the newer Camaros have, only it bolted to the transmission tail housing, had this funky little plate that it bolted to. And I had a stock automatic shifter, so it would break the rear transmission mount often. And when it did that, the arm would hit the tunnel. I would hear it bang, and it would pull the cable. And so I'm foot braking it, and the minute I hit the gas, I knew when it broke because it would pull it immediately into third gear. So I knew I was toast at that point. And I ripped the shock mounts out and had to weld stuff in and that. But it was my only car. I mean, I literally, my wife, before we were married, she graduated a couple years ahead of me, so she was teaching in Northern Iowa, and I would drive 120 miles in that car each way to her house, and oftentimes leaving from the drag strip. And it was the only car I had, so we drove it every day. Those things were basically just pop cans. I had several. I have a soft spot for them too, but if I ever got one, I know where to spend the money because the front suspension is lacking and the rears. But there's lots of stuff you could do with them. But yeah, you bring back memories that they're great cars. But talk about sticky brakes. Oh my God, they are the opposite of TBM. I mean, those things, single piston caliper with these plastic pin clips for the pins, and they'd be glowing on you. You couldn't let go of the wheel because it was going to be pulling left or right. You just never know which way.
Even the 4-cylinder did the same thing.
Same
I mean,
junk brakes.
it was sketch on those brakes, even with a 4-cylinder. You learn how to, know which way to zig and zag and dart and all that stuff, especially if you went through puddles and all that stuff.
Right.
Even
But
with
I'll tell you, there's a few really nice old super stock GT Monzas out there. Some of them have gone into the bracket world these days, but I know where there's a couple, and it's like I have no business with them, another car, right? But there's a couple like living in garages that if you're a Monza lover,
if you go get Ronnie Dutton's car when he first built that had a 283 4-speed in it.
Yeah.
When he first built it. So I talked to him here recently, and I said, "You kind of miss it?" He goes, "Yeah," but then he said, "I'm too old to go back to that." And but Austin's got a good question.
Got a question. He says, "Uncle Jim, do you run a dual disc or single disc?"
Yeah, that reminds me of that meme. Hey, Austin, what's your name? He's wanting me to give up some secrets, but I'll tell you this. I'll tell you exactly what I run. I run two different types of clutches predominantly. The dual 7 billet top Youngblood is what I have in the Cavalier right now with the Copo engine. And the only reason I went with that one, well, there's two reasons. Number one, I had switched all my other combos to a single 8 billet 6 lever, which is Rob Youngblood makes it, and they're phenomenal. And I'm running radials with them, and they're just fast and easy going. But I had some dual 7s we used to run with a steel hat that needed to be upgraded because SFI wouldn't certify a steel hat multi-disc. So I sent one back to Rob because I'm like, hey, I don't have anything for an LS engine. So he converted that to the billet top. He did the LS flywheel, and it's super, super easy to tune. Rob's right. There's probably a faster way to go, but I'm not there yet with the Copo one. So I'll probably ultimately end up with a single 9 or something with that one. But for now, it's got a dual 7. But with my LT1, with the Nova, it's a billet 8-inch advanced clutch from Rob Youngblood, and they're lightweight. They're easy to tune. And the Nova, I'll slip the crap out of it with the radials in class, and so much so that like you can have it in gear and it'll roll away. I mean, it won't even hold it in the lanes. So you got to be careful. But normally I tighten it up a little more than that and just kind of bog it a little bit. But in class, you got to raise the RPM and slip it a little bit and have the counterweight come in later. So it's a different deal. But Austin, you got my number, dude. Call me and we'll talk. I think you would definitely benefit from some clutch work and from Rob's. And I'm not saying Rob's the only person to make a great clutch, because there's a lot of great clutches out there. So I'm not here just to say that, but I will tell you my experiences in over 20 years has been running Rob stuff. And fun fact, I've never bought a new clutch from him ever. I've always bought them secondhand and had him refurbish them and maintain them. And he's fine with that too. And he's been wonderful. So the single 8's probably the easiest clutch I've ever had to use in terms of the small block stuff. Yeah.
That's first class, and that's really honestly everything I've ever really heard of anybody that's used Rob's stuff. I know he works with Bobby Fazio, and that I know, and other people like.
When he races, he runs a super stock Corvette. He uses his own stuff, and he's helpful. We had a chance to meet him when we did the Western Swing, so that was kind of fun too. So yeah, I'd say, but it's the single 8 with a small block lightweight car. I don't know how you can beat it, and I'm sure there's people who are going to have, hey, I got this one that's great. I'm not saying don't change. If you got something that works for you, I'm not telling you to change, but I'm telling you, if you're still running a steel hat with a 10-inch disc or something like that, oh boy, you're in for a lot of opportunity.
Yeah, well, I know Austin and Keaton and stuff like that will definitely look into that, because we were talking about that here recently and different ideas, and they were sharing. So yeah, definitely look forward to that. Now, like I said, so you fast forwarded through the Monza stage, and you were saying now you stayed local. I think you said you stayed local racing, but you were running with your buddy. So when did you and your brother and stuff actually get involved in class racing?
Yeah. So
was that before your career, or was that during your career?
I guess during. See, I started at UPS when I was 18 years old. So when I'm going to college, I'm working nights at UPS part time. And I raced and I drove Bob's cars through college, and even ran a comp eliminator car with Bob and Dave Lucan. It was basically a new Jacobson Pro Stock Pontiac Grand Am. We ran an A kind of altered, back in the day. But with with our own car, I would have to say our first like class venture was a 69 Camaro. And my brother Joe heard about it from our friend David Lukey, who's a Division III tech guy. He wasn't at the time, but he goes, hey, I work out at in Clinton, Iowa, and I heard about this car in a garage for sale, 69 Camaro. You guys should come look at it. So we go up and look at it, and this older guy's got it. He said it was my son's bracket car, but it had a 4-speed in it, Dana, Alston cage kit, no interior really, bracket car with a 406. And so we thought, well, hell, and he was trying to settle the state. His son had passed away. So it'd been sitting in there in the garage for years. And there was a lot of new stuff in there, but unfortunately there were holes in the roof. There was a lot of stuff got rusty and stuff. So we go in and we buy everything, and we get it home, and we build a bracket motor for it. 406 stock 5560 rods. And we bought some aluminum heads from like a place that did stock car stuff, and put a Jericho in it and everything. And it was funny. So the Jericho story leads me to this. I had a 68 Firebird that was kind of rare that I'd stumbled into. And I sold it to Jim Madison, who's a Pontiac guy that has Pontiac Stork Services, because he wanted it. And I decided, let's go racing with this 69 Camaro. I can't afford to have this Firebird around if I'm not going to race it. So I sold it, and I went down to Louisville, and I bought a bunch of Jerichos. And I think it came out. Most of the stuff came out of Scott Wilcox's Corvette at the time.
Oh, okay. Yeah.
So I go there. I had a pile of money from selling the Firebird. I go down there and I buy 2 complete Jerichos, one in parts, boxes of gears, and about a dozen different clutches. And I get all that stuff loaded in my truck, and I drive back to Illinois, and I'm at my buddy's house and in the garage, and he's like, well, where's the fire chicken, my 68 Firebird Ram Air car? I said, it's under the bench, all the Jericho stuff.
Right.
And Willie DeVore showed me how to service them and put them together and everything. And I was able to sell 1 complete trans, and I had 2, and it was all narrow gear old stuff, rag disc stuff, hardcore. We everything in that car was used but the gas and oil. But that was our first legit super stock B super modified. And I ran it sometimes with a 5-speed and C modified, same weight brake. And it was, it was fun, but it was a handful to drive, and it was rough on stuff. And we ultimately ended up selling it, and we started racing with Bob Gibson again when he got back into it. And that's how that led us to the Nova. And I, like I said, I'd always told him, if we ever go super stock racing, we're going to buy the lightest car we can afford. So when the Cavalier became available, my good friend Chet and Barb Fink that I raced with, when Chet had passed away, Chet Sr., and it was time for them to move on with the car, they really wanted me to have it. So I was able to purchase the car out, the remainder of the car. I was kind of responsible for the drivetrain near the end there, but I bought the car, and it's a beautiful car. So it's a Pete Z apple tree Cavalier that Chet had everything you could think of done to it. It's beautiful. So that was the dream car for Chet, and it is for me too. So it's been a wonderful car, and I haven't won Indy with it, but I have gotten down to the semifinals at Indy with it. That 69 Camaro though was our first foray, and it was, you're talking rag disc stuff, knocking the teeth off third gear like it was candy. And we got good at changing gear ratios at the track, because we were, we'd break one and we'd have to dig around and hope we had a ratio close, because we didn't have necessarily like redundant spares. We just had a box of gears, right? And so whatever you had, I'm like, we got 2 of them. All right, put that in,
Put that in.
Yeah. So,
y'all were there counting teeth.
Yeah, exactly. We're doing the quick math, and all that stuff. So, and I still run the Jericho stuff, because that's a problem right now, because parts are getting to be a problem. But as many as those as I have, I'm going to run them until I run out of parts, because they're great transmissions. It's just, hopefully somebody starts making the gears again. But right now it's a bit of a desert, for parts.
Right. Yeah. And what do they got? The first series, second series, narrow gear, wide gear. And
there's some variations out there. So yeah, there's a lot of important questions to ask when you're looking for parts if you own one.
That's true.
Yeah.
But tell us how you ended up driving. Now, was it Bob's Chevelle you ended up driving in stock at first? Was that Bob?
Yeah, that was Bob Gibson. So we bought the car from Dave Crochet, and that car had been around. Jimmy Parker, Division II guy, built that car.
Yeah. Okay.
And ran it. In fact, there was a time ticket from the Gator Nationals in like 1971 in the glove box when we got it.
Oh,
but Jimmy Parker owned it at one time. I forget who had it there, but Dave Crochet bought it from somebody, and Dave won some IHRA and NHRA national events and a lot of point meets with it. And he ran like I said, iron case, Borg-Warner, speed shifted deal, brutal clutches, old tires. In fact, when we were first running, it had these old Firestones on it, but it was still pretty quick. And we wanted to go set the record. We'd updated the heads, at the time, shoeback lifters were a thing. We put those in it, new cam, and we put a Jericho in it, and it picked up a lot. And we're going to go set the record. And I'm at Indy at the National Open, and I never knew if it was going to go left or right when you pulled second gear. The sidewalls are beat out of these Firestones. And not that it was their fault. They were just probably 20 years old. And so Bob goes and buys a new set of tires and puts on them. It goes straight, but the car slowed down like 600s, and we were worried we couldn't back up the record. So we dug the old ones back out of the trash. Luckily, they were still there, and he had them mounted back up, and the car was all over the place, but we backed up the record. We took them back off. He literally took his knife out and sliced the sidewalls off so we wouldn't be tempted to put them back on.
That's funny.
Safety first.
Yeah, but Dave Crochet, Crow Dad, we see him when we go to No Problem. Mike Marone, another racer, he's got a 69 Z28 like Casey. Only his is a dedicated race car, and it's a real Z. So we see our friends there when we go into town. And going to John Duzak, we always see John. So going to that racetrack's always great fun, and we go to Drago's for grilled oysters too. So there's a lot of. But that car was from lived in Louisiana for a long time, and Dave won a lot of races with it. We won a lot of races with it. It went to Canada for a short time, and was painted the original factory red color. So now it's factory red, and that car is Jerry Terry owns that car now and runs it infrequently. But last I saw it was in J Stock Automatic. So the car's still out there.
It's out of Alabama now or something like that.
Yeah, I think it's Alabama. Yeah.
Yeah.
So it's a really nice car. I mean, it's had all the updates done. I mean, Bob put a chromoly bar in it with a swing out. Bob actually stripped it down to bare metal and had it repainted. But when he sold it to Jody up in Noble up in Canada, Jody wanted it to be the original color, and it was originally a 300 horse 327 stick shift from the factory, red on red. And it had red interior that Bob had done. It was gorgeous, but it wasn't the original red. It was more of a deeper burgundy kind of color, and the matched the two-tone on the outside. So Jody is an upholstery guy, so he redid it. So if you see that car, it's the original color inside and out, and it's gorgeous.
What's really neat about stock and super stock is how the cars change hands and stuff, and they still stay in our sport decades and decades later. It's really neat.
There's a lot of great cars out there that have been great for a long time. And, I'll say that there's some guys like buddy Matt Dowdis is a good example. I mean, he shops. I mean, some of those bracket guys, they know that if they get their hands on a super stock car, it's going to be a good car. So they're often, so you will see some of those cars that, come into a new life, as it were, in the bracket only wars. And they make great cars because they're, like I say, we talked about it: efficiency, repeatability, durability, lightweight, put the weight where you want it. Typically, those are cars that are well thought out and sorted out, and you're not going to find one that's not square. Typically, if it's a car that's been like campaigned at a national level, this is a pretty good car. So you see that too.
That's very true. Yeah, you talked about it. I mean, the quality cars out there's like I know Jimmy DeFrank's car, the Cavalier, is for sale, and I got a feeling if somebody doesn't buy it and run modified or super stock with it, that eventually it's going to make its way to the spring fling. It'll eventually be there because it's that quality of a car, amongst others. But yeah, so you were fortunate enough through hard work and dedication, you won Indy in Bob Chevelle.
And luck.
Okay, and well, call it what you want. You were there.
I mean, you got to get the right line. So I'll say, yeah, the car was right there the whole time. We qualified, I think, 12th out of like 170 some cars. I won class, and the poor dude that I raced in class was so upset. And I never did understand this. I still don't. He literally sold the car at the track, and he was well qualified. So I beat him in class. I got a better light and outran him. He sold the engine to one guy, the trans to someone else, and the roller to someone else, and he went home.
Wow,
that's
really?
How upset he was. I don't understand.
Okay.
But yeah,
I've not seen that happen. I've not seen.
But I would say, at that time, I'm the monkey behind the wheel. I jump in there and go, and Bob sets the car up. and he just, you do your thing, and there's something to be said for that, right? I mean, I enjoy doing what I do, so I'm not saying I'm going to trade it for anything, but and I like driving, but if I had to choose between one or the other, I would be the guy on the outside of the car trying to make it better and talking through it. And a lot of times my brother will drive. My brother is probably, well, I'd say he's a better driver than I am. He doesn't go out as much, but he drove the Nova at Orlando. If you were at Orlando, he was driving the car for me. And, he got a little vacation out of it, but he jumped right in and went. And I mean, heck, he had to race a Copo and got his door sucked off. And I think he broke out because the Copo pushed him. I think actually
side draft.
But he was triple zero, I mean, he was in a good spot, for getting chased, but he and I have driven the same cars enough that I know he can drive it as quick as I can, and he's probably better driver all the way around than I am, and I'm not saying I'm great, so maybe that's not saying much, but he's a good driver, and I need a little luck to get things to fall my way for sure.
Well, yeah, but we all need luck. But it also it's hard work, and when preparation meets luck, that's or preparation meets opportunity. There's luck, and and so you've shown it, and you and your brother. I mean, you've gone from the Chevelle. You bought the '66. You updated it. Y'all have raced that over the years with great success. You've won IHRA events with it. You've won points races with it. You won class. You've set records. You run everything from 327s to 283s, and that's about the only combination options in that Nova. But you run everything, I think, from D stock all the way down to, I think, J stock.
We actually ran in the 66 Nova. I've run C.
Oh, you did get a C. I didn't know that.
E, F, H, I, J, K, and then N and O, I think, with a two barrel we could run it. But I mean, we ran it with everything that we ran on the 66 with a stick shift. And the reason I say C is that when we first ran the 350 horse combo, it had a lot more power on it and it fit in C. And so, but actually it could go back and C again. But our car's light enough, we could actually make weight for C if we wanted to. Probably not the best place for it to be, but we have a 350 horse in it again. It's at my brother's house, and he'll run it with the 350 horse. But yeah, the 283 was fun. We ran that for a long time. The 327 275 horse is basically the same engine as the 65. It's just got a quadrojet and a different intake. Other than that, it's the same exact engine. So that's probably the best one because we can share a lot of parts between the two of us.
Can you tell the viewers typically what is it like a day for you running class?
Well, you're up early, number one. I mean, first of all, it's all setting the table. So you think for us, it's, getting the car prepared the day before at a minimum. You already go prepared, but there's things you do for class, depending on weather and who you're racing. You might be changing the oil. You might be changing weight or moving weight or taking weight out. And you're certainly going to loosen the clutch up on the base side and put more counterweight on. And then you raise your RPM on the launch and the shift points all back up. And it's not something you're going to go a bunch of rounds with and be consistent, but for class, it's going to keep the car from bogging, and it's going to be happier on the gear changes. So we do that. And then in the morning, you're up early, the sun's up, you better be out. They call them stalker alarms for a reason, right? Because we're usually
people
out.
Hate them.
Yeah, we're usually out early. And I don't necessarily start mine up too much. It's not like the old days where you start them up and you got up on jack stands and you're trying to warm the gear lube up. I mean, we run lightweight synthetic stuff. You roll your way up to the starting line, and I don't even run the engine much. I mean, because usually we're parked in the back 40. But you don't have to do much to get the oil where you need it temperature-wise. And, if you can ice bag it down or chill it, you can. It just depends on what NHRA will allow as far as chillers. But at a minimum, you're going to ice the intake, and you're going to be pushing it in the lanes if you got help, and checking your tire pressure. Everything's on the edge. And there's more risk involved because, things might not go your way with the tune-up, or, something happens. You could spin a tire or slip the clutch a little too much. But if you don't do all those things, you probably don't have a chance anyway, unless for some reason you've got everybody covered. And that's a rare event to have people covered to the point where you don't have to worry about it. Usually you're there scratching away, just trying to get by that round to get to the next one. And it gets even harder if you've got more rounds. And my hat's off to the automatic guys. You look at like E, F, G, H stock automatic, and there might be a dozen or more cars, that's a whole nother eliminator. They're rotating the tires, changing the oil, 2 cans of gas. I mean, the stick cars, I mean, if you're in the combo, you might have a few rounds, but it's not, you don't have nearly the amount of cars. Not that I wouldn't love it. I think it'd be great, but some of those automatic classes are really dense with a lot of fast cars. So you win some of those deep classes like that in class. I mean, you've really done something.
You've really done something.
Now, I know one year at Indy in the Cavalier, there's a story. I hadn't won Indy in class in the Cavalier, and I was really trying to. And I was competitive, but I just hadn't had a chance to do it. I wasn't fast enough. And I was running pretty good with a new combo, and I broke the engine on the first qualifying. And it was not terminal, but serious enough I couldn't go on. But I had brought the LT1 with me to get freshened up because I felt like, I had 2 engines, and I always gave one to Willie so he could stay ahead of it. And that's why we generally didn't have problems. Well, I go to tech and I go, hey, can I run change engines and run class? And like, well, is it the same horsepower? I said, no. Is it the same class? And they said, yes. And they said, do you have any more qualifiers left? I said, yeah, first round of class qualifying. He goes, you can do it. You got to run it the proper weight. You got to change your tech card, and you got to make that last qualifying run because none of your other ones will count. So I sent Bob Gibson, went down to Discount Tools and bought a cherry picker. And we found a little cart and drug the engine out, with the golf cart over next to the car. And then we pulled the old one out and swapped engines, and we ended up winning class. So that was even more meaningful to go through that kind of a thrash, like we're a top fuel car, and we were able to come through and win class. And so that was really, really something special. And I gave that trophy to my good friend, Willie DeVore, because, I felt like I couldn't even get anywhere close to that if it were not for him. And unfortunately, Willie passed away last summer, but he always rides with me. I mean, I've known him since I was a kid. Every engine that I've ever had has been machined by him, and all my super stock stuff, he would flat out assemble it and do it. He was one of those rare people that knew how to do everything. He did the Copo engine and knew it dynoed well, but he never got to hear how quick it's gone so far. And it's going pretty fast for our first shot at it. So I've got some, it's a big change for me to not have that, my security blanket in place. So that's a tough, whoever helps me has got big shoes to fill,
Yeah, that's for sure. I've heard a lot of great things about him. And I think, didn't he also win the first class nationals, U.S. class nationals in Byron?
Absolutely right. He had a 3rd gen Camaro with a stick shift, 305.
Super J.
He was running a 327 4-speed at the time, and he was running not in Super J then. He was running in GTE, I think. But anyway, he won the class nationals with that car, which is awesome. And that is a phenomenal car. That car actually was Scott Talgo's comp car for a minute. And then he got it from Scott and cut the roof off and redid the cage, redid the whole car. And ultimately, yes, he ran it in Super K and Super J with a 305 high speed. And that car, somebody picked it up locally. They're not super stock racers, but they're gear jammer guys. So it's a stick shift car still, and I'm sure it'll remain that way. But beautiful car, really a neat piece. And I'd say he's just phenomenal. And there's a lot of people that benefited from his expertise over the many decades, for sure.
Oh, the paint job is beautiful.
I'm going to ask you a question a lot of people want to know about. Is it easier to build your car that you want to run, a particular class, or is it easier to just go out and find one for sale?
Well, I think that's a depends question. It probably depends on what level of car you're looking for and how much money you have and what your skill level is. But I would say if you're going to generalize that, if you're going to generalize that, I'm going to say it's much easier to find one and buy it. Just buy, know what you're looking at, right? There's some stuff that you might buy and go, oh Lord, I got to redo the whole car. That's worse than starting with a fresh one. And there's some that you can get in and go, and it's just, there's some great cars out there for sale, right? So I'd say, in general, it's buying an existing car. Just as long as you've got the knowledge and the ability to vet it out and make sure it's what you think it is, you could be racing in a day instead of months in a year. Or some cars never get finished; they get started, right? So
Right.
My good friend Chet Fink Sr. used to say he didn't want the Cavalier to become a PIP, called it a PIP, a perpetual project, and he was worried that it wasn't going to get finished. So that's when he brought the car up to Illinois and said, can you help me finish it and let's go race it? And we did. So yeah, in general, I'm going to say find one. And if you look on Racing Junk and online, and best way is knowing people, right? Because a lot of the best cars never get advertised, and they're just changing hands because there's people whispering, "Hey, if you ever decide to call me, here's my number," and
Right.
and that happens too.
Right. Yeah.
Well,
I've
I've seen several actually, out competing, and they would have for sale signs on them, and so that's probably a good opportunity if the car's performing, where it should be. It's probably a great buy.
Yeah. Oh yeah, and there's some great cars out there that are for sale, and there's cars that maybe aren't advertised for sale, but you strike up a conversation and that triggers a thought. And sometimes the cars, I've had people, when we first started running the 66 Nova, I had people come up and want to buy it. And they're like, wow, I'd really like to have that car. Yeah, you too. And I had to decline. I said, look, I said, and at the time we were really deep into it because we'd really spent a lot getting the car painted, and we'd done like working on a third engine. And I'm like, and somebody's like, well, what would you have to ask for it? I'm like, I don't even know if I could say the words out loud because I've spent so much money between my brother and I on what we've got into this car. You would look at me like I was insane if I told you, what I have into this thing. I said, so when the time to sell it is when you're done with it, if that day ever comes. And, we're all aging out, we're getting older, and there's some folks that we're losing like Willie that, that's a wonderful car. Right. And if you find cars like that, sometimes that's an opportunity where, hey, I don't want to sell the car, but when I go toes up, call this number,
Right,
and,
right.
Well, it's the age old joke. I'm worried that when I die, my wife's gonna sell all my parts for what I told her I paid for it. I mean, you got to have in your knockbox the true prices on stuff. I think if you're really planning ahead,
Everybody keeps their ears open when they hear that ridiculous price. Like, oh, I said that ain't right. Somebody's lying about that one. It's like going.
Yeah, there's some good stuff out there, and the power of the internet really, gives people an insight to a lot of cars that are out there. In fact, I've had people from Scandinavia, Sweden, and Finland both want to buy the 66 Nova before, and one of them, I actually gave him Mike Keener's number, and he bought one of their big block stick 68 Camaros because he had one for sale. And I said, what are you looking for? I want a Nova like yours, and I want a big block stick Camaro. It has to be stick shifts, And I go, okay.
Right.
And he ended up getting a hold of Mike and buying one of those cars. This was many years ago, but it was one of their, I don't remember which one, but it was one of their 68s, white with the blue hood, Right. And it went over to, and you see some very nice cars that have landed over there. They know their cars. They don't port any mutts over there. If it's a car over there, it's a pretty nice car.
Well, I mean, they ended up with Jim Waldo's Fairlane, first in the 10s. Ended up with Bobby DeArmond's Camaro, first one in the 9s. Okay, and then you're talking about that one, and that's just the top three off the top of my head, and there's others.
Keith Lynch's Nova, Waldo's third or fourth gen Firebird stick car. Yep. There's a lot of them, and then of course you go to UK, you got the Williams brothers who their business is like muscle cars and race cars, and they build and source a lot of them, and they build a lot of them too. So they don't necessarily ship them all over, but they leave a car over here in the States, that B stick Nova, and they run that car, and they'll come over here and run it when they can get away.
Well, they're going to be at Indy next year. I know that they're going to try to get some redemption from this year being in the final. So that's definitely going to be a good thing. Now, I tell you, you've had a career at UPS. You lived in Illinois. You moved to Georgia. Okay, so now you're a D2 regular versus a Division III, even though you run both. Actually, you run all over. I see you everywhere. Yeah. Okay, quite honestly, between you and your brother. Okay, and then you retire from UPS after 36 years, I believe it was, correct?
38.
38, my mistake.
Yep.
Whew, don't want to skip them last two. Whew.
Yeah.
So, your whole career at UPS, and then you decide, or you just did you approach Doug, or did Doug approach you because you already run their products? Okay.
Yeah.
And also, to Doug and to everybody at TBM and Mark Williams and stuff, you are working with an excellent racer. You're working with Jim and his brother that have an excellent reputation. Okay, and they are very, very hands-on. Because I'll give you an example. I walked up to you at the Gator Nationals, or actually, I think it was the Baby Gators. Honestly, is when we did the interview.
Yeah.
Okay, I found you in the back 40, and when you said back 40, you were not kidding. I had a pack of lunch.
Right.
Okay, but I got back there, and I want to say one time I come back here, I missed you. Or a couple times, and one time you were just talking to somebody. Somebody just come up to you and was just talking to you, and you were taking the time to talk about not only the car but the products, and because I saw you pointing in there where people were asking questions, and I'm assuming you didn't know him from Adam. Okay, so you were just taking the time with everybody that came by, and that shows just how much you care about the product. Okay, and sharing, because you care about stuff. So I give you credit on that, because you're absolutely exactly what you say. I walk, and then I walked up. You didn't know me from Adam. I didn't even introduce myself yet. And started like, hey, how you doing? We just started talking, and so I just wanted to tell you thank you.
I appreciate that. I'll tell you, I love class racing and all the NHRA, IHRA stuff, the sportsman stuff, and I love the racers by extension. And I'm happy to all the things I do for TBM align with what I like to do anyway. Right. So it's not unnatural at all. It's who I am. And when I have an opportunity to meet more people and we have a common interest, which is the cars, the racing, trying to make things better in the car, and just, and that's just the racing stuff. Sometimes we have other commonalities, or we learn from each other, and I learned things that I didn't know about. So you learn from everybody and enjoy their company. And again, you never know who's going to be your next sale too. So, there's that part of it too, and that you have a responsibility to promote the brand in the way that is honest and open and educates people more than anything. It's like, because there's a lot of great things to spend your money on if you're a racer, and usually if you're like me, you have more ideas than wallets. So you've got to measure, how do you rank in the priority of what you have for sale versus what they can afford to buy. And my goal is to educate them to the point so they truly understand where that new brake purchase or Mark Williams or Motion product should be in their level of priority, or at least give them the information so that they can shuffle the deck in a way that makes the most sense for them. And I'm not a classically trained salesperson at all. And if I have somebody that's like talking about this or that and it's really not broken, I'm like, look, you don't need to fix this today, right? Keep me in mind. Call me when you're ready. We'll talk about it. I'm not into spending somebody's money that they don't need to spend right away. Sometimes it's it's the old urgent versus important, and it might be important but not urgent. And yet sometimes it's urgent and important, right? So we've had people coming for babies and gators, and they had brake failures, and here we are. We could sell you a kit that fits your car, and we do. And I'll call the factory, and Jason Smith will roll up with a brand new kit, drive up from Bradenton to Gainesville and help put it on. And we've done that. And it wasn't our brand that failed, but it was a sales opportunity for us. And I'll say most of the time, I'm going to go back to maintenance. It wasn't even the fault of the manufacturer. I mean, I'm not here to sling shade on other manufacturers. It wasn't even in every case in that. It was maintenance issue, pure and simple. And the racer's like, oh, I should have checked that. But now they got mangled up caliper mounts or something broken, and they're in trouble. And you travel 1,000 miles to race, and now you're out before you started. We could do that. And so being close to Florida, or when you're in Florida, it's really nice because they'll hustle up. If we've got it, they'll get in the car and bring it right up. And we've done that over and over again. So that's always a fun, exciting moment for us. And again, we want to support the sport that we're embedded in. We love all this stuff, and everybody. You talk to Doug; he's very passionate about this. Doug mentioned it. He's 39 years old, and he's like, "I'll do this stuff till I can't do it anymore, or my wife won't let me come to work anymore." And Mark Williams retired. He was 84, if I remember that right. And that's how Doug really got talked about, because he'd always told us, like, man, what's Mark's plan? Is he going to retire? And when I guess the day came to decide about retiring, Doug immediately went out there and worked a deal with them and purchased because he knew that it aligned with our whole culture and our mission and everything that we do. And also it was to preserve and protect a wonderful company with great products that who knows where it goes if nobody steps up to buy it. You get some of these private equity schmucks, and I say that in endearing terms. Well, not really.
Not really.
No, there's probably some good ones out there. So if they're out there, raise your hand, and I'll be happy to like prop you up. But most of the time you get a black eye if you're a private equity, because a lot of these guys are weasels that just take a good brand and suck the life out of it. So imagine if that would have happened to Mark Williams. Now he's in the safety of this group where it's a good fit too, right? We can share. We've done nothing but grow Mark Williams. We're adding more automated, newer machines in some cases to help make production time from order to delivery quicker for our customers and still have the best quality out there. And he's actually adding jobs, right? So Doug had mentioned it. We were talking the other day. He said, sometimes people say, "Oh, automation, it's bad. That's a human job." Look, the world we live in requires automation for repeatability, ease of design to development to production, and it allows a small to mid-sized company to compete with some of these guys that are all too happy to take a great brand, offshore it, dumb it down to the cheapest possible denominator, strip away all the many different models, and just sell the 2 or 3 that are going to make them the most money, and then they ride it into the ground, until they crash. We're not that team. We're lifers. We're into this, and I'm retired, and I say retired from my day job, my career at UPS, and I'm working for TBM. But I told Doug, I said, I love this. I'll do this as long as you'll have me, and because it's not even like having a job, so it's a dream job. So I tell people, hey, if you have questions, you message me. I mean, call me, text me, ask for Uncle Jim. However, hey, I'm not afraid to talk to somebody on the weekends or evenings, because I don't work traditional hours. I'm on the road working and racing and supporting, and I couldn't be happier. So it might take me a minute to respond if I'm traveling or this and that, but I'm happy to talk to anybody and help to learn from potential customers. And if you got a problem with something we've got, I want to hear that too. I mean, Doug says it all the time. We strive the utmost to have the best product out there, but it doesn't mean we can't improve or there's something we might not have considered. We have a great perspective because we try and test a lot of our own stuff. But, a drag and drive 1,500 horsepower, 2,500 horsepower deal is going to be different than a 283 2-barrel automatic. And there might be different needs there for product, right? And we know that. So we don't do everything, but we try to cover the groups, and we definitely want to listen and learn from our fellow racers and see, hey, what can we make? Now, are we going to make every single thing? People ask me that. I'm like, well, we might someday, but our goal is not to make brakes for every model that's on the street today. We know that's not possible. We're a small company. So we have to make money too. So if you've got one of one, it's going to be pretty expensive for a person to want to get that, because all the development cost and time, it probably wouldn't be worthwhile. But the more common vehicles that are out there, we're adding those every day. We're always adding something new. And with Motion, you never know what's going to come out of that shop. They've got some really cool stuff. And
they're constantly putting of developing new things.
Throttle bodies. Just go to the website and look. And again, if anyone has questions or needs, you can order right through me. I make it real easy for the customers. And I know not everybody wants to get online and just click the button, because you're like anxiety over, hey, there's a lot of different versions. I want to make sure I get the right one. So sometimes it takes that Q&A back and forth, and I might give you some homework and say, look, you got to go back and check this on your car and measure it, send me some pictures, and let's talk about it, and make sure you get the right stuff, right? So there's that, and I'm happy to do that. So me and some others like me, we do this as employees for work, and I work directly for Doug, and my job is to help with that. And I have a lot of customers that really appreciate that. Not everyone is comfortable with going online and just clicking away. And even if you are, you might have questions, right? So keep that in mind. I mean, if it's Mark Williams, Motion, or TBM, we can do the order over the phone, just like you can calling in, or I can send you an invoice and you just click on the link, easy peasy. But you can really go, we can talk about, hey, let's make sure you get exactly what you need.
Absolutely.
And I wanted to go back to something that you said, about the racer that had the issues with the brakes, and you had him brought up from Bradenton to Gainesville. Not only did you make him happy and make him a customer for the rest of his life, But all these other racers that were around there watching what was going on, they see how much that company cares for the racer, that y'all wanted to make sure that he had brakes on his car, that he would be able to race that day. And that speaks a lot of volume, because I can't think of a company that would do that.
I tell you what, it's a pleasure to be part of that solution. And when you can do that, there's no better feeling than to help somebody that thought they were done to get back on track. And that's because I know what it feels like. And if I could fix something for somebody or help them, and our whole team's that way. I mean, it's not just me. I get to be the face of it sometimes in some small way, right? I'm just, I'm Uncle Jim here, but the hard work gets done behind the scenes back at the shops, right? And all the design work and the production and the packaging. And so I can't say enough about them, because they're wonderful and they're super helpful. And when I'm in the field and I'm calling and I need something, it gets handled. And I just can't. But you're right, Mitchell. There's some piggyback sales on that too. So again, there's I'm glad to do it. It makes me feel good, but I also am very aware that that's a good move for us as a company. And we want people to see that and know that, 'cause that's who we are. If we can do it, we do it, right? And we're not always, if we're in Utah, it's not that easy, right? But we can still ship stuff overnight, right? Mm-hmm. So there's that too with those options. So it shrinks the world. UPS something right out to you. I work for UPS.
You know about that.
Gives you a great image.
Yeah.
It really does.
So yeah, it's a good deal, and we're happy. And again, like I mentioned, it was at first it was about for the class cars, it was about the zero drag and lighter weight, and that's a big part of what we talk about. But there were some people like, but is it consistent? Will it hold up and everything? Look around, a lot of Winter Circle cars right now have our brakes on them. Lots of them, world champions, sure. You name it. So we got.
Go look at little gangsters classes that are running all over the place. Yeah, they got y'all's brakes on their cars.
And
imports. We got some imports. that are running our stuff, and those cars are insane.
They are. There's some of them are just crazy. But I tell you, several years ago, Doug did a test, and I think it was an impromptu test. Honestly, I'm trying to remember all the details. It was a turbocharged, like an S10 truck, and had the rear brakes on it, and with no wheels on it, but had the bolts on it. Yeah. Ran it up, and actually used the brakes to actually build boost. Okay, and then ran it up and just drug the brakes. And I think they were not they were doing something. They weren't expecting the brakes to last as long, because they were just messing around. I can't remember the exact detail. Mitchell and I were talking about this because this is an older video.
Yeah,
we were talking about
it's out there.
They glowed. They were glowing, and it wasn't like a 5-second thing. They were glowing for a long time, to the point that you're talking into the camera going, "Can you believe this?" Once he got it shut down, he took the brakes apart, took it off, and put a straight edge on the rotor, and they were still straight.
Oh, yeah.
Okay, we're expecting those things to be all everything. And I'm sure in his mind he was probably thinking that.
Yeah.
But he's like going, and he was kind of surprised that it was an impromptu commercial.
Yeah. Well, I'll tell you, the design is inherently built to resist warping. And it's not that they can't warp, because any level of abuse can get any. It's still governed by the laws of physics. But the design, those rotors, they grow radially, right? They grow radially this way. And the design is really what makes it special. In fact, it was funny when I started seeing people copy them, and I'm not going to name the brands, but they weren't. It was like they put their hand out and traced around. Yeah, we got the same thing, and I just kind of laughed myself.
I know which one you're talking
and
about.
I'm like, well, you're doing it wrong, But that's flattering, I guess. But it's not the same metallurgy, not the same design. But they were trying to get the look, so that's flattering. Yeah. But it's. I will tell you, we've learned too. So we've had some folks that they had heavier cars going really fast, and like we test on our Copos, right? Because they're so heavy, we put together bigger rotor packages for the Copos to be able to handle more heat, right, and absorb more kinetic energy and transfer the heat. You need that sometimes, right?
Right.
And if you've got a heavier car, it's almost like a mass times velocity. You got to start doing the calculations. And we also make an HD, couple different, we've made them that started with the top dragsters. So it's a thicker rotor and the calipers are designed to fit that thicker rotor. So there's more beef there, and they're still lighter than most, but they're a couple pounds heavier than our light model. But if you run 185, 190 or more, so, and then in the top dragsters now they're going over 200, and you're not a person packing a parachute as much. Right. You want that extra bit of meat in there. We learned and made those because of that. In the Copo, same thing. You get cars that are 3,600 pounds going 165, 170 miles an hour, and they're not parachute poppers. You need a little more meat there. We do that too.
Right, absolutely. And also, I think you also work with Rich Guido with the Pontiac turbocharged Pontiac drag and drive out of Canada.
Yep.
And I think
those are our street brakes. Those are our street, the XM3s. Yep.
Okay, that's it. Because he recently put that set on. I think he put them on before he went to Texas for Yellow Belly, something like that, or maybe it was Indy or something. I can't remember.
That guy's driving through like thousands of miles up through snow, and I mean,
it's cool. It is awesome.
Yeah. We had him on and talked to him, and he's a great guy, and we've also met him in person. But that right there is a test. It is a testament, because that is not a light car, and it goes very quick and very fast and drives all the time.
Yeah, so we're constantly innovating, but we added the HD line for the rears. You could run a 4-piston. Like I had a comp racer that had 2 pistons up front, 4 in the back, in a car he'd purchased, and they stopped okay. But he goes, I don't like pulling the parachute, and I'm going 175. Can I add more braking capacity? I'm like, absolutely, it's easy peasy. We'll just upgrade to the 4-piston kit up front. And he's like, oh, wow, that's a big difference, right? And I said, put everything in a baggie. If you're at Indy and you're worried about every last little bit, and you want to, put the 2 spots back on if you want. But if you're running short tracks and you don't want to pull the parachute and you want a little more, I said, we offer some options in there. And of course, if you look at like Mark Williams, you'll see that, there's some integration. There was some collaboration between Mark Williams and Doug, even before the purchase, and that we had some kits where you could put our stuff on their mounts, like on the dual piston kits. Yeah, we had some of the floater axle stuff. So Doug had some partnership with them for different projects that were mutual beneficial. And when you're companies like Mark Williams, and of course Motion and TBM, there's a lot of racer owned companies or people that are small, privately owned. I won't call them mom and poppers necessarily, but like that, not some big conglomerate. It's healthy to collaborate when you can. It's not that you're in competition. A lot of times it's, hey, look, this is a good fit. Maybe we can help each other out, and that helps you be even stronger against some of the private equity firms where they take a good brand and then they're in a race to the bottom on cost and quality, and they don't worry about when it crashes. When it's over, it's over. Look at First Brands and all the nonsense going on there. Who knows if we're going to get clutch discs and oil filters? What we might be whittling those things out ourselves, pretty soon, right?
Oh yeah, there's a lot of manufacturers, brands that had a very, very good name, but over the years, like you said, it's changed hands in corporate world, and just not.
It's I think of like the Carl Icahns of the world, which had a bad name in the 80s, and I'm old enough to remember that. And some of these guys are like him, only times 1,000, right? It's a total it's a countdown to the explosion is what it is. And now people are starting to realize that, and so it's refreshing to see companies and be part of Motion, TBM, and Mark Williams and others that are out there just like us. And I say Motion, there's actually some smaller ones, Fluidworks and Rife, that we've acquired, and they were a good fit. But yeah, I mean, it's nice to see that our customers and potential customers respond to what we're doing and support us, because it's not like Doug and Andy brothers were a couple of rich guys. No, they were like working their day jobs and working at home in their garages and at night and doing everything when they started Motion Raceworks. And they're still not rich guys. They have good jobs because they're working hard, but they plow the money back in the business. Right. And we're investing on that. So when you're out there wondering, like I get this a lot, we're not the cheapest brakes out there from a TBM standpoint. We're not the most expensive either. But quality-wise, we're as good or better than anyone. And our design is second to none. And what I tell people sometimes, I said, look, think about it. If you're on the fence and you're only a few $100 away from the cheaper set, and the set you really want, maybe the decision is this: I'm going to skip one race. How much does one race cost? And I know this because I go there, right? Just the dang fuel cost is crazy. So you might save $1,100 to $1,200 to skip one race. That might be the difference between having the brakes you want or the brakes you settled for. And if you settle for them, you're always going to want those brakes. You're probably going to get them later anyway, and you spent the money. So there's always one way to get there that you haven't thought of, and I do bring that up at times. Like, I've done that myself. I'm like, well, I want this, I can't afford it, but you know what? Maybe I'm just going to cool it for a race or two, and roll that money up in my sock until I can get it. And if it's important, and that's an investment in the car, then and it makes the car better every single time.
Yeah, because Jim Marshall actually said the same thing, and Jim. Okay, doesn't matter what he has, truck, wagon, Camaro, it's quick. Okay, but he's worked hard for many years to do that. But he told me that, he goes, I don't waste money. He goes, I'm not one of those that just go out and just waste money. He goes, I will spend money. He says, but I want it to be one time. He goes, if I have to plan or save or whatever like that to buy the best, what I believe quality piece for what I want, he goes, I want to do it one time. Yeah. And I'm
Same
like
here.
going, I'm like going, okay. I said, so that's smart. And I took it. His suggestion is exactly like you said.
I'm with you. I was never the guy to be able to write a check for an engine and just wait for it to show up. I could never do that. I always had the best parts, and if it took me longer to get them, it took me longer. And that's worked for me. And I'm not that different than most. I mean, there's some folks that, God bless them, they've got the funds to do it, but they work and make it in other means. I talk to. There's some folks that are the write the check guys. Nothing wrong with that. They're probably working 100 hours a week doing their thing so they can afford that. But their enemy is time, so there's all different ways to get there, and they're all good. And I've got customers across the spectrum. But I try to learn from some very smart people, and I try to help in the areas that I can help in. So, because I'm not Willie DeVore. I can't do everything like he did, and there's very few people that can do it all. And even if you can do it all, time is sometimes a factor there too. So I try to help in the areas that I am comfortable with. I try to learn and get help from the others that I need it from, and I'm not too proud to get it. And I get really excited when I can go test it and see how it works out. So for me, testing's a blast, because I want to know.
You do a lot of testing. I have seen you just come there and just tear it apart. And I'm like going, why is he doing this? You sitting there with the clutch in your hand or doing whatever, because I think we have a lot in common because I love testing. And
Bill Dyer's the same way with the Mustang.
Yes.
Bill's like 76, 77 years old maybe, and he works in his shop like it's a full-time job every day. And he does his own heads. He mills everything. He does almost all the machine work he can do at home. Not all of it, but most of it. And he builds the cars and he did that Cobra Jet 352 stick that Bob Siegworth has now. And he bought it as a Coparts V6 car that had a crinkled fender. He did the body work. He did the cage. He, put the suspension. He built the car. Built the engine. You name it. And that's just impressive. And he's a good friend and he's helpful, even though he's a Ford guy. He had a 59 Corvette last year, if you remember. He had one. He used to race a 59 Corvette in like F-gas or something when he was young. And he came across one on American Pickers. And it was this junkyard dog, that race car that looked like somebody drug it out of a bottom of a pond. And no kidding, he really bought it from Pickers because I thought he was messing with me. And then he sent me a picture of him with his son and the Pickers guy, if you remember that show.
Yeah.
And anyway, he built it into a real car, 283 4-speed. And he ran it at one race. He ran it at Baby Gators, and Doug Ingles bought it. Said Doug's going to drag and drive that car. So Doug's making it his own. It's going to be super sweet.
Yeah, because everything I've seen Doug build or
so,
rebuild.
So you'll see, if you keep an eye on Doug's Facebook page, you're probably going to or somewhere it's going to pop out somewhere, and you're going to see him driving it, guaranteed.
Well, I tell you, it's good. Yes. You've highlighted on something that Mitchell and I agree with. TBM, the Brakeman, is quality first, top tier quality equipment for racers by racers. Mark Williams, same thing. Motion Race Works, same thing. Rife Components, same thing.
Same principle all the way across.
Same principle all the way across. We also like the fact that the names were not changed. Okay,
Right.
you know what I mean? You left there, you left the quality, you left the name. Understanding what the name represents is what I'm getting at.
Well,
So
and Mark Williams
really
is a
good.
great example. You know, they're the same team. We've added to that team, and we've added some equipment, but they're the same great team that's always been there. And so when you have a relationship that's in alignment with, you know, we learn from them and they learn from us. And I'm using us in the general sense because I haven't taught Mark Williams a damn thing. You know, I'm just a recipient, a benefactor. But when it comes to Doug and the team, he's like, hey, here's what we do over here. And they talk and you do things that are better for everybody. And some of the efficiency part is, and this is no secret, Doug said, it's like, hey, if you got machines down or tied up because you have similar machines in all locations, it's just an email away. If you've got the product to make, hey, if you need widgets done at Mark Williams that we normally do at TBM, email it over, put it in production, and you got a machine that's free. Now you're making it over there. The only difference is it ships from Colorado instead of Florida
but it's getting
Iowa.
done.
You know, so there's some efficiencies that come with some of these things when you collaborate and use, you know, machines that are similar or the same.
Right.
And the people know how to do it. And so it's all good. So those things only make you stronger. And again, Mark Williams, it is a great group out there. There's people that have been there a long, long time, and they're going to continue to be there, and they're hiring. I mean, they're still looking for more people out there. How wonderful is that to be, you know, able to, if you're a person wanting to get your foot in the door in the racing industry, and, you know, a lot of their guys even are self-taught, you know, a lot of them didn't know programming in CNC or AutoCAD, and they were, again, they're smart people. They have an ability to learn, and they're interested. So they work hard, they learn, they apply what they learned. You could be that person, right? If you're looking for a job out in, you know, Louisville, Colorado, near Denver, and you want to get your foot in the door, heck, Doug was just posting, they're hiring, you know? So
that's
and you talked about, like, how do we get involved? Like, really, it was Willie, because he knew Willie, because Willie had done some machine work for him. And, you know, Doug, I don't know if you know this, his dad ran a tool and die shop or a machine shop for years. So he'd been around that his whole life. So he had a little idea what he was getting into. And his dad races a stick shift, like a former Pro Stock Camaro, and like the Ozark Mountain Super Shifters. So he's got like a Rat Motor Liberty Camaro. So Doug's been threatened with dropping a clutch pedal before. He hasn't done it yet, but one of these days, right? So Dad's probably going to get him in there. But yeah, you know, Willie DeVore was kind of the common denominator, and then Doug and I got together and just started talking about, you know, and I think his biggest concern was, hey man, I don't want you to work too much. You know, you're retired. I don't want to take advantage of you. And I finally came to the realization, again, working at UPS, I'm like, I'm a high energy person in terms of wanting to do stuff all the time, and I couldn't handle being fully retired anyway. It would drive me crazy. I could see doing this and even more all the time. So I love it that we're growing, because I get chances to do different things for Doug as different needs pop up, as well as what I do, you know, my day-to-day and my racing connections with customers. So I really enjoy the variety and the ability to do different things that are interesting, because it's not that I don't like fishing. I grew up on the river and fishing when I was a kid. I'm not the sit in a rocking chair, go fishing guy. I've realized that. So I can't stop.
And if you love it, it doesn't feel like work anyway.
It's not like work. You're right. You're exactly right. I love it.
Well, I tell you, I'm going to reach out to you after this and ask you a question about my car, my street car, which is this one right here. Okay, but I'll ask you about that.
You got all kinds of stuff in that.
No, it's not fancy. But that's my hot rod, my street car foot brake.
Yeah.
Mitchell and I race against each other all the time. Matter of fact, we're going to be running against each other Saturday.
Is this a breakout race, or is this a heads up?
No. I run this one as Sportsman and Pro.
Okay.
For bracket racing, 1/8 mile and 1/4 mile. And Mitchell typically runs Sportsman, but a lot of times he also runs Pro.
Right.
I try to stay away from him, but every once in a while he wants to pick a fight with me.
We got a video online on our OTS YouTube page of us running each other, and I got a camera in each car aiming at each other. Oh,
nice.
So it was good. It was a really, really good race. But no, they're both street legal, and you're right, Austin. I do. I have something else, though, my father's, that I want to put a stick in. Yes, I want to redo this car.
Austin's got the car that's got a lot of provenance involved with it. And that car, when Robin had that thing, everybody ran to the fence. I mean, it was like, even if you didn't race, that's the one thing about a stick car. Even if you'll never race one, you all want to you want to come see it and to be part of that experience, because there's nothing cooler and more fun. And even if it's not in the cards for you to race one, I mean, nobody runs to the fence to see a power glide foot brake off the line.
No. And I'm proud to say I was there at Montgomery when he went to 9. Okay. And when he set the record, because I set my record that day. But yes, I was proud to say, because I kept up with all that stuff during that time, because, with Wolf and Treppenstedt and the 283 Super L, Super K Wars, that always happened at Warner Robins and all that stuff. I was that deep in it, because I was with my dad.
Warner Robins, that is going back. I actually went there in 1981, I think it was.
That was an 1/8 mile or quarter mile?
It was quarter mile then, and I only went there the one time, but I've got some old snappy pictures of that from my 110 camera. And Larry Pritchett was there with the mousetrap 69 Camaro Super Stock J. They had they had an Outlaw Pro Stock deal going on there too. But I just remember the track, because it had like grass between the lanes.
Yep.
And
they would have to pause it sometimes to get the cattle off at the other end, and used to drive behind the water box pulling in the track, and it was small compared to anything we do now.
Yeah,
boy, it was fast.
I'll have to look. I've got a few pictures from there from when I was a kid, and then we never went back, because it was a long drive for us at the time. But it's a shame. It's probably, I don't know. There's a park out there, but I know there's no track out there anymore.
No, it's apartments or something.
Yeah.
But it was bad fast. It always was. But and that's what made it fun too. But Jim, we wanted to tell you, we want to encourage everybody. We want to encourage everybody to reach out to Jim and to the others there at TBM, Mark Williams, Rife, Motion, and everything under their umbrella, because Doug and the family, including Jim and everybody, has worked very, very hard to build products and provide products for everybody, for all different walks. Like you said, imports, domestic, off-road, everything in between. And like I said, first-rate quality. And it's like, we really appreciate it, because I keep up with your stuff, and I love seeing how you represent it. I love seeing your products out there more and more, and the quality of it. So we encourage everybody to follow you, to get involved.
Well, this is, and it's certainly been a pleasure here. I don't know if you can add my contact email, jim@tbmbrakes.com somewhere, and they can certainly message me. If you're on Facebook, you're probably able to find me and message me there, which is absolutely fine, or call into the shops and ask for Uncle Jim. But holy Christ, I hope you can edit this thing, because we're gonna we need an intermission for anybody that's really
No, actually this is fine, because just like Austin and the others, I mean, I would love to ask a lot of technical questions, getting in about the clutch details and the clutch dynos and stuff like that, but I know that kind of gets off topic. But the biggest thing, Jim, is we wanted to learn more about you, to learn more about the marketing partners that you work with and work for, and how to get a hold of them, and the different things that y'all are doing for the racers and for the fans. And that's great. Now, I'll tell you something else. There you go, Jim at TBM Brakes. And I'll tell you something else. TBM and Motion are very, very involved in drag and drive. Okay. Right. And tell Doug I tried to reach out to him earlier, because I wanted to do an article from Sick Week. Okay. But I wanted to ask him first. I wasn't going to do anything without his permission.
Right.
But anyway, they're involved like in Rowdy Radial and different classes like that. And a matter of fact, I think one of their employees at Motion won Rowdy Radial with a 68 Chevelle. I can't remember the gentleman's name.
Yeah, that's Tanner, and he's one of our engineers at TBM down in Bradenton. And
okay, that's what it is. I'm sorry, TBM.
Guys is like a genius level. That car is a whole lot of rosy too, and it's fast. I mean, it's Chevelle like that. I don't care how you slice it. It's a pretty heavy car.
Oh yeah. I mean, he was not far off Soccer Mom and El Toro, and anybody that knows anything, El Toro is fast. El Toro is fast.
Yeah,
it's gonna be faster.
And did you see it? That car's coming back. He posted today. They're bringing that car back.
Getting some more updates.
Oh yeah, it's just a little fender rub.
Well, that car started life as the 8 seconds and 8 days. That was their goal, is to take a street car and in 8 days make an 8-second ride, and they did. And then when I saw it first time in person, I was down at the shop, and we were changing. I helped them change torque converters after hours or something, and get it ready. And they were getting ready for the Christmas tree race, and they started leaning on it. I think they hurt some pistons or something, and they updated the engine, and Brett kind of started tuning it, and thing got faster than it had a right to be, I think.
Yeah.
So it's getting some more updates. It's I think the match the ET and speed it's pushing right now. But those Coyote engines, I don't care if you're Ford, Chevy, Chrysler, Hyundai lover, those Coyotes, when you hang a hairdryer on them, I don't know how you can ignore something like that.
They are so impressive. They are so impressive.
We need to get Brett on, because that'd be a very interesting.
He might have an agent. I'm not sure. That guy's pretty popular. I'm not sure.
Oh yeah. Everybody trying to hunt him down and trying to talk.
But it's not impossible. It's the.
If not, maybe meet up with him at a drive and drag and just do one pit side, for 10, 15 minutes.
Well, yeah, I say, probably best to plan something like that out, but let me know. Certainly when I talk to Doug and Brad, I think that's the plan. When he's at the track, man, he's full on track guy. So
he is.
I mean, you look at all the things you've got to keep. I mean, there's a reason that car is as fast as it is. It's for all the people that think they can just, it's because of this and that. Hey, build one, right?
Oh, no, he is.
They have a hard time catching that guy.
He's very focused, very detail oriented, and you could tell it when he's at the track. He's not rude; he's just very focused, and you can see it, and it shows.
Well, and he's like I said, he's driver, crew. Everyone gets help occasionally, but he's elbows deep into that car and the computer all the time. So, and that's what you have to be. I mean, that's serious business. As fast as those cars are, I'm it floors me just in general how fast those cars really are. I just can't. I can't even imagine.
No, it's mind numbing for sure. But Jim, from Mitchell and I and everybody here at On the Spot Motorsports Media, we want to tell you thank you very much for coming on. And I want to. My wife is probably mad at you because you reset the hook when I saw you at the Baby Gators. And you took that picture of me sitting in your car. And I kind of wish you never did that, but you did. Well, you did, and it kind of set another hook. So I was talking to my wife. I said, I kind of want to do this, and she goes, "Well, let's get things planned out."
That's right.
So it's coming, but that's neither here nor there.
But you just have to make it work out for family beneficial situation.
True. And Mitchell knows. I mean,
when I buy parts, I'll just say, "So and so gave this to me."
Start hiding all the paperwork.
And you think she bought that?
When I came back from South Georgia with an extra nitrous bottle, I said, "Someone gave this to me."
Yeah.
And it's like going. Yeah.
That's where you got to sign it, put Don Perdome on it. Oh yeah, I got it at the Midway. It's a
it's a novelty. It was a novelty.
Yeah, it's a novelty, right?
What are you doing with a G-Force? Just found it.
That's right.
I mean? So it's all good. But we encourage everybody to follow Jim and his family as they're going through the sportsman ranks this year and all of Division II and Division III and everywhere. And we plan on seeing you at Indy, Lord willing. That's our game plan at the moment.
Great. And I would say too, if you haven't heard a whole lot about Motion, Mark Williams, or TBM, or you have and you want to know more. I'm not always big on just saying social media for social media's sake, but we have channels too that you can follow. And there's the original story that Doug talks about how he got started in the business, kind of where'd we come from and how did we get where we're at. Right. And there's a lot of neat stuff if you follow. It shows when we add new machines, and it just kind of shows you we don't hide a lot. There's a lot you get behind under the covers. You can see how things are made and done, and
right.
And I find that interesting anyway. So if you think you might take a look, it doesn't take a lot of time to set that up. You can just click on it as following, or you can just do a search, and it's fun. The story of how it came about when Doug talks about getting started is like the American success story, and it's still playing live, and so that's great to see.
It's very humble beginnings. That's for sure. It is very, very humble beginners, and it's great. Like you said, it's an American story. Worked hard, and they're continuing to progress.
Still working hard. Yep.
Still working hard.
We love it.
Yeah, we do. But Jim, we wanted to tell you thank you very much for coming on tonight, my
No,
friend.
thank you. I appreciate it. I had a good time. I apologize for any of the viewers that like kept this on in the background, or they're making dinner and trying to watch TV, because it's probably like they're like, oh my God, this guy would shut up.
No. It's nothing like that. We'll
a lot
have
of great
time.
information about the companies, and that's what we want to do here. Is get that information out because we think it's very important, especially to support TBM Brakes, because they're right here in Florida, and we're Florida based. So
right, that's great. Right. Well, one of these times we'll have to get down there and you can get the tour and see everything firsthand.
We're for it.
We would love to do that.
We would love to do that. We absolutely would. Show up. We'll do a podcast from there, or do an interview, or
absolutely
something that works.
Yep.
But until next time, Jim, we appreciate it, my friend. You have a wonderful night, and like I said, I'll reach out to you. I'll text you when we get done here and just ask you some general questions.
Okay.
Get your wallet ready, Robert.
Yeah. I need some direction first, Mitchell. Okay. Okay.
And money, right?
First thing first.
Yeah.
Start line first, then finish line second. So
you
got to do that. So
all right,
my friend. You have a good night.
Take care. Thank you,
buddy. Bye.
I tell you what a great podcast, having Jim on and talking about those three companies. TBM Brakes, you go to drag strip, you see a lot of vehicles with their brake packages, and people's not just running them because they look neat. They're running them because safety reasons, and also, like you said, also lose a little bit of weight. And Mark Williams has been around for years in motion. They've got great products as well. And it was really great to talk about that and talk a little bit about his Stock Eliminator career and what's on the horizon this season for him. Like you said, he's going to be at Indy, so we're going to see him. That's going to be a lot of fun. I know you're going to probably try to go up a little early for class.
Yes, that is exactly what I'm going for qualifying for class, definitely for stock and super stock sportsman for sure. Because just the way my schedule is, I'm going to have to get back home earlier than you are, and you're coming up right after me to pick up coverage and continue on the rest of the time. So that's the game plan right now. But yeah, looking forward to it. Really, really am. It's a good time.
But as we close the show, we always want to thank our sponsors. Redline Synthetic Oils, they're just not a marketing partner for us. We used our products as well, and I tell you what, with a car like mine, with all the miles on it and how many passes it has down the track, there's no other oil I would use but Redline oil. And of course, we don't want to leave out Scorpion Racing Products, a great company located in Ocala, Florida. Valtrain Components. We want to thank Zach Collins and the group there for everything that they do.
Absolutely.
And of course, we also want to mention Big Stuff.
Oh man, I tell you what, when you come like it says, Total Power Management, if you got anything EFI or anything you need to be controlled by an ECM, you need to look up Big Stuff. They can handle all that you have, from anything small to like an OEM style replacement, all the way up to pro mods or above. They can handle anything you need, and specialty stuff. They've handled some inline 6-cylinders, 4-cylinders, off-road stuff, snowmobiles, some unique creations. They've been able to handle it no problem. And they have a new dash monitor. And Mitchell and I would just absolutely love this because it can be.
I was drooling, man.
Oh, gracious. It can be incorporated with race pack systems. It can be incorporated with Big Stuff systems or Holly systems or anything and be the dash. But also they have an external weather station that's incorporated in it. So you could be in your car, racing in the lanes, whatever, pick up weather data, or if it's something like that super important, like bracket racing, you get a big swing, especially if you're stuck there in the car, you could pick it up on the monitor. That's technology it's so simple, but other people haven't done it yet. So Big Stuff is taking those steps.
And just the other day, I wanted to bring up just yesterday. I was talking to Dan from, I had the DC Inc. Sorry.
Yes. There it is. Okay.
And they actually work together with Big Stuff, which is another great company, and we're really looking forward to seeing them at PRI this year. But go check them out because their stuff is really compatible with Big Stuff, and they work together a lot. So I wanted to mention that since I talked to Dan yesterday on the phone. Mm-hmm. And of course, we don't want to forget about GRE Signs, located in Newberry, Florida. If you need signs made, hats, shirts, you want your vehicle wrapped, or shoot, he's even wrapped with a lot of airboats. Yeah. Tim Goolsby and the guys there at GRE Signs, they can get it done. And I'm going to let Robert do this one because I tell you what, this is a great company.
Yes, we started working with Larice Motorsports Insurance this year, but we've been talking to them for at least a year, and I've been following them for longer than that. The Larice Motorsports Insurance, as it sounds, they can handle all your racing insurance needs for your race cars, for your trailers, your contents of your trailers, and not only drag racing, but also circle track. Okay, and nobody wants nobody expects an unfortunate situation to happen, but it does happen. Okay, and Larice Motorsports has worked hard to come up with policies to help cover your needs, okay, because they're racers themselves. They've been in the industry for many, many years, okay, so they understand the ins and outs of what you might need. So Larice Motorsports, that we know for a fact, has helped out many people even this year alone who's had an unfortunate situation happen. They've been covered by Larice. Been no questions asked. They've taken care of their policy, filled it out, have a check going their way to try to help them to start to recover. So great people. So everybody needs to look into Larice Motorsports Insurance.
Yeah, I just want to remind everybody, don't forget, we'll be live streaming the bracket race this weekend, the Scorpion ET Series, Scorpion Racing Products ET Series at Gainesville. And I tell you what, we're looking forward to that. Me and Robert both to get back out on the track because, after this weekend, we're going to have a little bit of a hiatus. We're not going to race for 2 months, not unless we go to some of the area tracks here in Florida, South Georgia. But, it's been a great season so far for some, not so great for some others.
Well,
but I'm figuring things out. And I'll be back up there next year. No doubt about it. You go through these things from time to time, and who's to say I might win the last 4? You never know.
That's true. You never know. You never know. That's the only way you're going to find out is you have to go, show up, line up, and give it a shot.
A lot of people like me to go out early, Robert. That way I can put the lower thirds down there of what class we're in and what round.
No, that's not the case, Mitchell. We all we all go. We want to do our best, and Lord willing, things work out. But the biggest thing, we want everybody to be safe, enjoy themselves, have fun, because it's really a good time, and it's really a blessing to get an opportunity to do what we do. And so, like Mitchell said, we want to thank everybody out there who follows us on the Spot Motorsports Media on our Facebook page, also our YouTube page, Instagram, and Spotify. And we encourage you that if you currently don't follow us or subscribe to our channel, that you do. All that little bit helps. If there's anybody who wants to talk to about interviewing or anything, or possibly partnering, just get in contact with Mitchell and myself, and we'll start talking to you. But until next time, ladies and gentlemen.
Saturday and Sunday.
Until next time, till Saturday and Sunday, ladies and gentlemen. We'll talk to you then. Have a good night.